Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday night. It is time for revolutionary change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager, and Jen, you have a little bit of an opening salvo that you would like to offer our wonderful audience this evening.
I do. What do you mean by what are you speaking? I'm not sure.
We're speaking of Mr. Ziopussy down in South.
Well, you mean our first? Well, it's not my thing. I mean, I would just think it's the first story.
If we ever refine our show and add different like segments and specific spots and whatnot, I think we could kind of get like the politics stuff out of the way first. Generally it's like, okay, the palate hasn't been fully cleansed yet, so maybe this would be a good time to just kind of throw it at everybody.
Well, right, it's the warm up dealing with the bullshit before we get into things that actually matter.
That is correct. I agree.
So I came across something that is not at all surprising. For people who do not know, Jared Moskowitz, aka the Ziopussy, is being challenged in his primary down in Florida. What's his district number now? Do you know?
25 or 22.
Okay.
It's 22.
And he is being challenged by Oliver Larkin in the Democratic primary. We've had Oliver on. He's a great guy. He's definitely someone on the correct side of policy. And apparently, and no surprise, the Ziopussy, giving so much, I feel, validation to his name, has backed out of the debate. So Oliver is, of course, going to go. But I have the clip from Oliver where I heard of, and not at all surprising.
Could you imagine, though, just for a second, and listen, it's one thing if you just ignore, because that's what Wasserman Schultz did with Jen. It's another thing entirely to commit to a debate and then at the 11 o'clock hour decide to back out of it.
Well, and let's acknowledge what we're here to acknowledge. Behold, the Ziopussy. And there could not be a bigger pussy than someone who won't debate a primary challenger. You're a sitting congressperson and you don't have the sack to debate a primary challenger.
And can I just say,
I would say that to Debbie as well, because it does go for her too. But
of course. But Jen, can I just say one thing? I think you gave him a little too much muscle tone. I think you were way too fair with him.
Wait, all right. Well, hold on. Let's bring it back. Let's assess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if you notice the sweatband on his wrist.
I was right. It is 25. Okay. So it is the 25th district. For some reason, I thought it was 22.
See the sweatband?
Yes. Yes, I see the sweatband. Yeah, that's a good touch. All right.
So, guys, here's what Oliver Larkin said. Wait, where's the...
I think it might be the next one over, right? It drops out of debate.
Wait, I messaged it to... Oh, no, it's this. I think it's this.
No.
Debate.
Pull it back up.
All right, sorry.
Democratic Black Caucuses. I will be there regardless, debating an empty lectern where Jared Moskowitz just dropped out of tonight's debate hosted by the Broward and Miami-Dade Democratic Black Caucuses. I will be there regardless, debating an empty lectern where Jared Moskowitz refuses to stand, because unlike him, I will show up for each and every South Florida constituency of voters that I'm seeking to represent in the United States Congress.
I want to say that this moment kind of reminds me of what happened back in 2018 when Andrew Gillum was running for governor and was considered a decided underdog to both Gwen Graham and Phil Levine. And they did this debate with the Miami-Dade Black Caucus all the way down in Homestead. Now, if anybody knows anything about Homestead, Homestead is a predominantly Black underserved city that took it on the chin, probably harder than any other area in the state of Florida when it came to hurricane damage. And that, of course, is Hurricane Andrew. So naturally, this area has been neglected and forgotten, but Gillum showed up. And what it ended up happening was it became sort of a Q&A session amongst him and the audience. And I always felt, since I was there, that that was kind of a springboard moment for him, that he showed up where people were not necessarily expected to. Just the fact that Phil Levine was over in Miami Beach, couldn't show up to Homestead.
You are so far off on a tangent.
The point, can you let me speak, please?
Yeah, I'm letting you speak.
The point is that this became a springboard moment for him at a point in the campaign where he had basically been written off. I don't think there's too many people out there that necessarily think Oliver Larkin is going to win this election, this primary against Jared Moskowitz. However, the fact that this is happening right now, right before early voting starts, and this is a big deal because this is the Broward and Miami-Dade Black Caucus. Like, especially in the Democratic Party, this is not a good look. Like, this is a very bad look. And
I don't know that it'll matter. I don't know, because if it's being hosted by Dade and Broward, it's probably a lot of different candidates. And I don't know how many people there are ultimately going to, what it will affect in terms of votes in his district. I don't know. And I also don't know that it matters either way, other than Moskowitz is a pussy. And it bears repeating.
That goes without saying.
And this is one of the clear contrasts in our race. This is why the South Florida Sun-Sentinel refused to endorse Jared Moskowitz for the first time in any one of his previous campaigns for office, stating that his unwillingness to engage me publicly shows an unwillingness to defend his own record, a lack of...
That's interesting, Sun-Sentinel.
Yeah.
So you put out statement about a sitting congressperson that it affects them and they are not willing to engage. How come that doesn't ever apply to Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
Well, we know why.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's interesting, though, that they wouldn't endorse Moskowitz. Again, and I also guess that this means to me that Debbie isn't going to bat for him either. Debbie's leaving him to die.
Well, and in case you're wondering just how corrupt the Sun-Sentinel truly is and who owns it, the Sun-Sentinel endorsed Wasserman Schultz in this congressional primary that she leapt herself into.
In the district that she doesn't live in.
Of course.
So, okay. Yeah. Sun-Sentinel isn't exactly a beacon of good reporting.
Respect for voters, and that his lack of public town halls or constituent engagement falls far short of what the people of South Florida deserve. This is happening in a moment where Tallahassee Republicans and the Supreme Court are attacking Black political representation across our state of Florida and across the South. I'm proud to stand with the Broward and Miami-Dade Black caucuses and answer their questions, to respond to the concerns of Black South Florida voters and any voters, which is why we...
And as he should be, and I don't know that it'll make a difference, but I do think that it's important to point out that Moskowitz is in fact the Zio pussy.
Yeah, very much so. And if you...
What a little man.
No, he's a little man, all right.
And again, I use that term man very loosely.
But if you think that level of disrespect towards the Black community is bad, and again, we always talk about this, there's like a technical term for this, but there's like a Black managerial class or a Black
Miss Leadership class.
Miss Leadership class. Yes, correct. No, David, I think
you're not crazy, David Hunter.
No.
David Hunter wonders if he's crazy because I don't think a newspaper should endorse anyone. Do the journalism responsibly, and that's it. That's how it should be. Unfortunately, what happens is editorial boards endorse. So it's really stupid. I agree with you as someone who went to journalism school. I don't think that publications should endorse. I don't think that, but they do. And that should be assigned to somebody that they're a grift.
Now, let's be very clear. The Sun-Sentinel is owned by a Zionist billionaire, in case you didn't know. And that's why they support Wasserman Schultz, because...
Does Oliver stand a chance? I am not going to say that he does or doesn't in this primary. I really don't know. The problem with that seat is that it isn't a safe blue seat anymore. And what's likely going to happen is it's going to turn red. That's what I could see happening in that seat. And what's worse is that it could happen whether it's Larkin or Moskowitz. So it doesn't really matter. And then it's going to happen, and it could conceivably be someone that I know is 10 times worse than Moskowitz.
And that is exactly the point I was trying to make before you interjected. That it really doesn't matter if Oliver wins the primary, because the backup plan is always to support the even more hardened Zionists that will come from the GOP,
Correct.
Joe Kaufman being the most likely person, because again, like certain people in South Florida, he is a perpetual candidate every single election cycle. He doesn't stop running.
And as far as, and people, again, this is what bothers me when, and I know that we comment and do stuff on other races, so it could also apply to us, what I'm about to say, but it's very frustrating when people who don't know specific districts comment on races, like especially what's going on here in Sheila Sherfulis McCormick's district. Like we've already addressed how that is, but it's the same thing for this seat. People want to support who they want to support. They don't do the research. But I'm telling you that Joe Kaufman, who will probably be the GOP candidate that will run in that, that'll run against that, whoever that is, he is 10 times worse than Moskowitz on Israel and Zionism.
Well, let's not be too hasty. Let's not say he's 10 times worse. Don't say that. He's worse. But,
I mean, Kaufman has been like a vile, hateful bigot forever.
Sure.
I don't get that vibe
and
from
so is
Moskowitz.
Moskowitz is too. He is. He is. He's just a spineless little fuck.
Wow.
Kaufman, on the other hand, is the type of person that, you know, again, he's kind of crazy. And I think that's where
that's what I mean. He's like radical.
He's like a nut. He's a nut job. So that's where it becomes a very big problem. With that being said, what I think a lot of people are going to learn here and are going to learn it the hard way, especially those that don't understand how South Florida politics works. And clearly a lot of you don't, especially those that are not from here. This is a very older, more conservative part of the United States, regardless of what party you fall in. And this is a very wealthy against poor areas. That's predominantly.
And again, and I would also suggest that the blue is a very pale blue. It's a very pale blue.
Again, you got to get, the whole thing about red, blue, that shit doesn't mean anything.
No,
it's
but what I mean is
class.
even the fact that it is considered a blue place in some of those places, what we would consider blue, but these are people that are, they're not progressive by any stretch.
No, definitely
not. They're like, there's really not a difference between them and the red team.
And again, there's a reason why a lot of people move to Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade counties, especially the western ends and the central ends of the county, because most of these places are gated. These people are very comfortable. This is why it's almost impossible to canvass certain districts in South Florida, which is why you need a lot of money, because you need to get mailers in. And if you are not stamped approved by the establishment, AKA the Sun Sentinel, with rare exceptions, maybe the AFL-CIO and some of the other, bigger ones, they'll have their opportunities to win, but again, seldom is the opportunity to do so. That's why, and again, Florida, you see the least amount of turnover because it's a gerrymandered state. It's a closed primary state, and it's a wealthy state for those who actually vote and get involved. So there's a reason why turnover seldom happens.
Would you like to answer, Hunter Ray? Because this is something we've talked about. And Hunter, you can go back and look because Sheila was on our show. When was that? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. What I could tell you, Hunter Ray, is that I've known Elijah Manley for a decade.
We both have.
He has, again, he's a perpetual candidate as well. He's run 6 times for office now. And once that starts happening, you understand that this is a career. It's not a service.
It's not a service.
He is somebody who went out of his way many times to get the support from both Jen and I when he was running. And he got it. And he got it in a big way, in some cases to the tune of certain money that I wish Jen would never have given him. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that when Jen ran for office, he never lifted a finger, and that includes both times. So when you want to understand what a person's values are and what they really stand for, you need to look no further than that. I don't have to get into it any further.
No, we've covered this. We've covered this issue. We support Sheila. We think that is the best option to beat Debbie.
Best option.
And the longer that Elijah sits in this race, the bigger chance that Debbie's going to win that seat. And I don't care if he's campaigning with Oliver, and I don't care that they're putting out green AIPAC free signs about him. Okay. The fact is he wasn't offered AIPAC money. Okay. So I don't, you don't get to value somebody for not taking money that they were never offered.
Correct. And then if you really want to get down to brass tacks here, Elijah has no problem being funded by people who are very Zionist. And that's a fact. So I want people to be very clear that while you may not be seeing the Israel lobby groups giving him money. This is the thing about, proving whether or not Wasserman Schultz is still in bed with payday lenders. They wash their money through a variety of different shell companies, through law offices. There's a lot of different ways that this goes on.
Yes,
Trust me
Sheila
when
is
I tell
in
you.
this race. And
Yeah.
Sheila is the best option to beat Debbie. She really is. And I get that Elijah is getting recognition on the internet. He's getting a lot of social media recognition.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it hasn't translated into where he has no money right now. He's blown through like $750,000. And at the end of the day, every time we hear about him at an event down there, he's there by himself. He doesn't have supporters. He doesn't have volunteers. And all the other candidates do. The poll that his team has been citing has no credibility whatsoever. No, I don't know what that was, but a poll that does have credibility had him at a distant fourth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I will
exactly.
be on the ground. I will be on the ground there from the 11th through the 14th. So I will report back what I see. Now I'm going to be going all over the place, and I will let you guys know exactly.
You're going down there for the election?
I'm going down there for a few different reasons, but I'm going to be there at a specific time where it's going to be during early voting. So I am going to set time aside to be able to go and check out what's going on.
Are you going to wear a Sheila shirt?
Probably not. But I think it's, again, I just want Debbie to lose. That's my goal.
And we know what the best option is. And unfortunately, Elijah is not necessarily in this for the best reasons. And it's unfortunate, but they're going to end up with Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
You want to deal with Sheila McCormick after the election? I have no problem with that. I think that's perfectly fine. And Sheila's going to have her own legal issues to deal with about a year from now. But when that happens, then you cross that bridge. Right now, you have an opportunity to end Wasserman Schultz's career. Don't fuck it up. That's all I got to say. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
My prediction is that Debbie's going to win. That's my prediction. And I hate feeling like that. Like, I don't want that to be the truth, but it is. I feel that that's what's going to happen.
And listen, I say this to, friends of mine who are actually getting behind Dale Holness, thinking that he's going to win. Boy, God, let me tell you, there's a reason why certain people can't get out of their own way. And there's a reason why you cannot bank on prosperity.
You're going to have to tell me who said that to you.
Well, again, the point is
he's already lost 3 times to her, though.
Doesn't matter.
Well, I'm just saying, like, to get behind, he's lost to her 3 times already.
Yeah. Well, again, herein lies the rub. Sheila has her own baggage, but she is the best shot you have of defeating Wasserman Schultz. That's it. Yes. And
Peter has a comment to make on that. I did not watch it because I don't watch Breaking Points, but Peter has a comment.
So I listened to it a little bit, just a little while ago, and it is obvious. Listen, I will say this much for Krystal and Ryan. They let Kshama talk, which is something that not everybody does. So she was able to get certain points across, but the entire framing of almost 90% of the conversation was about DSA and Mamdani. As far as I'm concerned, the only primary framing of this entire conversation had to do with the fact that she is running for Congress, regardless if she's doing it as an independent or not, against the person who co-authored the bill to merge the U.S. and Israeli militaries together. That should have been the start of the conversation. That should have been the end of the conversation. And it was anything but the conversation.
They didn't bring it up at all, right? Did they bring him up?
They brought it up ever so haphazardly at the beginning of the conversation. And even then, it wasn't good enough. It was, I'm telling you, I timed it. It's 3 minutes. That's how long they talked about it for a 45-minute conversation.
But you know why? Why they focused on DSA and Mamdani?
Because the organization felt the pressure to get her on. And then once they decided to have her on, they got their talking points about what you're going to discuss, because we know who's writing your checks. And so once that decision was made, the conversation basically became a referendum on the fact that she's running as an independent, that it's not the most sound strategy, that she should make nice with the Dems and become a member of the DSA, or that the DSA is doing a great job. 2 things can be true. The DSA has been doing good work on behalf of Mamdani with the elections of 4 new congressional representatives that might likely form a caucus, if you will, not a squad, but likely a more democratic socialist type of caucus that might actually hold votes up. You see, that would be something.
I'm glad that's a case where it works in Kshama's favor, that she can just go on and on and on. Because I wouldn't have let either of them get a word in edgewise either about their Mamdani DSA shit. What the fuck does that have to do with the price of tea in China, Krystal?
And listen, and we're friendly with Ryan. So this is the thing about politics that people seem to forget. It doesn't matter if you're friendly with somebody. If you're ideologically off on something and you know that this is more important, and that's what you support. We are supporting Kshama Sawant because she's the most consequential candidate running right now. She's running against an absolute treasonous son of a bitch. She is running against somebody who is trying to destroy this country. This is a guy who's been in office longer than most of you have been alive.
And yet that's who everyone seems to want to platform. Mm-hmm. And it's seemingly even the people that claim that they want something different. So,
and again, the whole time she basically had to continue to defend the fact that the Democratic Party is never going to cave. They are going to always be based on corporate special interests and super delegates in the whole nine. They are going to destroy themselves, which they might very well do. It's not going to take very long. The Democratic Party is trying to figure out a backup to Newsom. And that backup is Jon Ossoff. Jon Ossoff, who is a smooth son of a bitch in his own right, is also a Zionist. He doesn't support Medicare for all, or even forget it. Stop saying Medicare for all. It's single payer. That's what it is. So he doesn't support single payer. He is not against war. He is not for, again, forget the Green New Deal. Just say you're for a clean energy grid. You can't even say that. You can't even redirect it. And people are saying
he's like dry toast.
Yeah, well, he's like talking like this back in 20.
Like dry toast.
Oh, and again, this is the point. There's a thing called manufacturing consent in politics, and no one does it better than the Democrats. You know why? Because the Democratic base of voters tend to basically bend the knee, whereas the GOP base of voters tell you to get fucked or we will fuck you. So that's the difference. Now, of course, there's a lot to not like about that because so much of it is based on hateful rhetoric that doesn't solve any economic problems in this country. But if you really want to solve some of those economic problems, Kshama Sawant is the person who will cause a stir on Capitol Hill if she gets there. So as far as I'm concerned, just listening to the interview, if you are going to have Kshama Sawant on and you are going to basically devote no time to highlighting her record, to talking about how Adam Smith is absolutely got to go, which never came out of their mouths, then you kind of are being guardians at the gate for capital and the establishment. You really
what made you think they weren't? Because they just caved in and had her on when they clearly didn't want to, but they basically caved because they saw that their ass was showing. So did you really think that she was going to get the same kind of treatment? Because there's no way that Adam Smith, that his team and his people would tolerate that. And then that would deny them further access.
It took Kshama until about the 38th minute of the conversation for her to finally, she said Kshama. I caught that as well. And I'm not going to say she did that.
Really? Krystal? That's what you're going to, like, really?
So well, maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't, I can't say. Point is that it took until about the last 10 minutes of the conversation for Kshama to finally figure out that she has to redirect the conversation. So when they ask her a question about DSA and Mamdani and how they're winning and this is the right way, she finally figured out, oh, no, I've got to answer the question by redirecting it back to my campaign and redirecting it back to the fact that I am running against Adam Smith. And you're not going to love everybody that runs for office. Again, this is the same argument that I would make against why people don't necessarily love Roger Waters, because Roger Waters, unfortunately, is a very gruff asshole in many instances, but he is somebody who literally has put his life on the line to fight for justice around the world in a way that very few people that have ever gotten to his level. Roger Waters is the lead singer of Pink fucking Floyd. This guy is on the level of the Stones. He's on the level of Springsteen. He's on the level of anybody else that you could think of that made it to the top in the music industry. And he uses his platform for absolute good. And yet people want to debate whether or not he's good or not, or they don't like him. And then I have to read the fucking comments from people talking about, Kshama's not the most likable person in the world. Again.
Are you looking for friends?
What are you
Let me direct you elsewhere. Okay. Politicians and people that are running, and they're not there to be your friend. They're there to fight.
Correct.
And if they were really all that nice and amenable and genial, they probably really wouldn't be that much of a fighter. And they certainly wouldn't label themselves a revolutionary socialist.
Correct.
So the kind of people that get offended by demeanor and by that, those are fucking snowflakes, and they need to get out of the way. Get out of the fucking way.
And again, like I said, it's one thing.
You don't like her.
And let me tell you, I would not have had any problem. And Krystal and Ryan, if either of you hear this, I would have had no problem if you devoted 10, heck, even 15 minutes of the conversation to defending DSA and defending Mamdani. You made it almost the entire conversation.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
that's what's going to get them clicks. And that's what their donors and sponsors want to see content of.
Like, that's just not acceptable, and you know it. And so when I saw Nick Cruz of RBN going off on them, I'm thinking, all right, maybe he's because he's a militant brother, so sometimes he may take things.
He is also a revolutionary socialist.
So I was like, all right, when I got to listen to this whole thing, and so I listened to it, I'm like, oh, he's right. I mean, they basically. It wasn't even so much they tried to sandbag her. It's that they were just doing everything to avoid talking about what needed to be talked about. And that's the problem.
Why I know that when people project themselves to be one thing, but then do something else, they're a grifter.
Yeah.
They're a grifter. How do you cover her and not cover her policies and her issues and her scorecard? Like, how do you do that? What's the point?
And
at the end of the day, let's be very real. And this, I haven't watched Breaking Points in years. They're nothing but a shepherd for the Democratic Party. They're just trying to sheepdog you back into the Democratic Party. And they think that by giving you this false hope about the DSA and Mamdani wing being so successful that they're going to have such an impact on the party, don't leave the party because this is new. We're finally getting it together with the DSA part. They're just sheepdogging you right back into the party that goes nowhere. And it's embarrassing. Honestly, Krystal should be embarrassed for herself.
And Krystal, when Krystal brought up the idea that, and I'm in favor of third parties, Krystal, if there ever was an opportunity to support a third party candidate, it is in this race, because not just because Kshama has won elections, she is viable, she has raised money, she is an independent, and this is a jungle primary. This isn't a Democratic primary where, running as an independent makes it almost impossible to get to the general and be viable. This is a legitimate opportunity to get an independent to the general, and I think she's got a really good chance.
I agree, Noah. I agree.
That's the real problem. But that doesn't mean that, again, this is why everything is based on very specific conversation when it comes to a given candidate, when it comes to a given situation. Here's what I know for certain. Is that right now, what you have is a situation where she's running a very important race in Washington's 9th. And then you have, it's distracting me, Jen, please. Then what you also have is this exceptionally important race in Michigan right now. And yes, one of the two candidates happens to be a Democrat, and Abdul El-Sayed is doing a fantastic job. On the other hand, he's running against an absolutely detestable scumbag of a candidate who fully embraces the fact that she's basically the Wicked Witch of the West. And here's proof of that.
Okay, some of you have seen, there's those cool kids on the internet. They're doing the cool kid chatter. Some of them might be the coastal elites making fun of how I talk.
No, you're doing that on the road.
No, they're making fun of you for being an idiot and a corporate whore. The way you talk is just annoying, and you kind of look like a troll. But that's another story. And I don't mean it in an evil troll way. I mean like those little troll dolls. Like she kind of actually looks like one of those trolls to me.
Well, she did the meme. She was rubbing her hands together, but. Here is an outline of all of the corporate special interests that have been funding her campaign. This isn't even getting into the fact that tens of millions of dollars from the pro-Israel lobby has hit her campaign in the last month. Then you also have Commandant Clyburn in the back, blessing, Haley for Flint and Detroit. Then you have Governor Whitmer, who is planning on running for president.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that, Gretchen. Those crazy eyes.
By the way, do you know that Gretchen is the heir? It's amazing what you discover once you really dig in on this. Gretchen Whitmer is the heir to the Blue Cross Blue Shield fortune.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Very interesting. And so Haley Stevens makes herself a completely unlikable character. But here's the thing. I also think she's doing this because I think she's extremely thin-skinned. And I think the way she talks is absolute BS. I don't know where she picked up that accent. It is not from Michigan. You listen to anybody who's from there, they will tell you that is BS. We do not talk like that. And yet, this is how she conducts business.
Not okay, says my governor. But let's be real. They're making fun of Michigan.
No, they're not. They're making fun of you with the helium Cabbage Patch voice.
People in Michigan do not talk like this. And for our friend who is also the producer for Status Quo, Whitmer is the reason Flint, Michigan is still poisoned and is responsible for the poisoning of Black residents in Kalamazoo. And yet she's up there touting Stevens along with Clyburn, and they got all the money and all the establishment. That's why
honestly, just that screenshot with her donors should be enough for anybody to understand how this works. Like, so that's absurd. Look at that. Look at that.
They're thinking they're better than us. And what they don't know is I am your voice.
Oh,
and
God,
their
no, don't be my
jokes
voice.
and their
Oh!
criticism only makes me fight harder.
Oh my God, go away. Go away, troll.
now, would you like to see?
Yeah.
Now, would you like to see the real face of Gretchen Whitmer? Or excuse me, let's not. Do you want to see the real face of Haley Stevens?
I don't
So
want to see that either.
I'm going to preempt this for you. Okay,
Please
this
don't
happened.
scare me.
No, this happened over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
And the gentleman's name is Jay Singletary.
Okay.
He's a community organizer who actually is supporting El Sayed.
Okay.
Listen to what he has to say. Watch Stevens.
That's awesome.
One, I did already vote, early voted. Somebody is going to win. I do not want Mike Rogers to win. And whoever it is, like I said, it's not an issue. It's not a candidate issue. It's a human rights issue.
Yeah, right. What's your full name?
If any candidate who ever ran for office made a face like that at me, first of all, I wouldn't let it go. And it should be talked about relentlessly. I want you to watch her face when he says, because again, what's his issue here? His issue.
I didn't hear we kind of came in the middle of the conversation. So how does she know that he didn't vote for her? He must have just said that.
Correct. But
he must have just said, I voted for Abdul Al-Sayed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
One, I did already vote, early voted. Somebody is going to win. I do not want Mike Rogers to win. And whoever it is, like I said, it's not an issue. It's not a candidate issue. It's a human rights issue.
Yeah, right. What's your full name?
Jai,
Yeah,
J-A-I,
right.
Singletary, S-I-N-G.
All right, now, guys.
See you.
Bye. See you tonight.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
They're getting him to sign a release for his video.
I'm sorry, I missed the top of this, but you were, is it the neighborhood board?
Yeah, so I kind of answered, I put one hat on, Executive Director of Woodbridge Neighborhood Development.
Okay.
And my second hat, I've been living in the city of Detroit since 2019. I've been a resident of Michigan since 2017.
And you already voted early.
I did.
Absentee, which
Yeah, I got ABB, yeah, absolutely not.
for Abdul.
I did.
And so why did you want to be here to talk to?
Because, like I said, it's not a candidate issue. It's not a candidate issue. I think this is, no matter who wins, no matter who loses, because it's not like it's going to go away. I know I sound like a broken record. Those 6-year-olds that I coach here, they're just as precious as the 6-year-olds in Palestine. And
That's fascinating. Haley, maybe there's just people that are not really up with the genocide. He's just not down with that. Like, it's not his thing. Right? So you roll your eyes when he says that it's not a personal politician issue. It's not a candidate issue. It's a human rights issue. I would suggest it's both, because the fact that she's a disgusting candidate that supports a genocide makes it be a candidate issue. Makes it personal to me.
Remember, Israel comes to her in her dreams, and even if that is not true, here's what we know for sure. Haley Stevens is a narcissistic sociopath. She wants that power. She doesn't care about anything else. That's why she so gleefully accepts that money. And the reason she's accepting it is because she knows that al-Said was running laps around her before all of that extra money came in. Now, will it make the difference? I personally believe in my heart that Said, and my head, that Said is going to win because he is a vastly superior candidate. Vastly superior.
Yes.
Like she's a joke compared to him. That's why I put it in the title that she's a clown, which she is. This is a person, let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen.
They're different leagues. Correct. They're in completely different leagues. She looks like she's running for junior high school class president, not even high school. And he basically has the grace and the composition of somebody that's running for a national office. That's how ridiculous this looks.
Oh, hot dog. Not many will get the reference, but I do. That's Pennsylvania. That's not Michigan. Anyway, if Said doesn't win this election, he's going to go back to doing what he does. He's a doctor. If Stevens loses this election, she's going to go get herself a job on K Street. Or maybe she will get her good friend Whitmer to give her a lobbying job on behalf of Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Whitmer might need that job for herself.
Maybe.
So.
But I think Whitmer is counting on the idea that she's at least vice presidential material, if nothing else. So,
well, she's vice presidential candidate material. That's very plausible, but not actual vice president material.
But trust me, we're already getting the OSOF AOC chatter.
Oh, you guys are
that's
work
getting
that,
around.
huh?
It just absolutely breaks my heart when I see limbs missing, children. They're having to play soccer on crutches with no legs, having to live lives. And I feel like my country is directly responsible for those actions.
Don't feel, Jay, don't feel. We are responsible. We all bear responsibility for all of this. We are. And you're not wrong.
It needs to stop.
What do you make of this interaction that you just had?
What do I make of it? I mean, again, she's not a devil to me, you know? She's somebody that could potentially win this seat. And I wanted an opportunity to speak with somebody about an issue. And I have no Palestinian blood in me. It's just, I have to believe what I see. I have to believe what I see. So about the interaction, it was fine. It was cordial. We got to talk about both. I tried my best to talk about both sides of what I care about in my professional work, but also as a person. Yeah.
Will you vote, if Haley wins the primary, will you vote for her in general?
Likely, yeah.
I'm curious.
That's not a yes. That's not a yes. But let me assure you, there is one thing I want you all to remember about this election, and do not forget this. If al-Said wins, the Democratic establishment is going to move heaven and earth to get Mike Rogers elected to the Senate and the GOP.
They will be supporting their money, their PACs will be supporting the Republican in Michigan.
1,000%. And if that means...
So they might cover their tracks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But if that
they
means...
might make it look like it's not them that's doing it, but they will support the Republican against him. And that means like their same donors, their same PACs will then focus just like they did in California when Schiff had that whole bullshit thing going on there with the jungle primary.
That is correct. And that, of course, is exactly why this is, I do not want people to misunderstand. There is a reason why Oliver Larkin is not getting as much pushback, because they know what's waiting in the wings if for whatever reason it doesn't end up happening. And the same is true here. They want Haley Stevens because they know she's a yes woman who will do what she's told. And if it doesn't work out that way, the Democratic establishment, this is why we say when push comes to shove, it's not just about Israel, it's about corporate special interests that control this country and control the world. When that is what's on the table, there is no such thing as a two-party system. There is a uniparty that controls it all. And if you're foolish enough to still think that this is a red-blue divide, you're wasting your time. Period. Now, some are scummier than others, but there are still people who get caught up in this. This is why it was so important to pay attention to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said the other day about how votes actually get counted when you're talking about bills coming to the floor. It doesn't just automatically get there. There's many committees and different there's different protocols that you have to go through in order to get there. There are many ways that bills die. Bills that actually are helpful often die. Bills that are helpful to the people who rule this world, those always manage to make it through. Abdul El-Sayed is a great candidate. He is running as a Democrat, and I don't give a shit because I know that what he is solid, and what he can be is something very influential on the Hill. Hopefully he gets there. Haley Stevens is the reason why the Democratic Party is dying, and maybe it should die altogether. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, she's just a younger version of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Same difference. She's just a little corporate whore.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. And let's not forget that when these elections happen, and we look around the world and the impact that they so often tend to have. You know, we had highlighted, and a lot of people did as well. I have not, yes, but no, but thank you for the reference. I would definitely check that out. Yeah, Abdul Saeed's he's a good guy. I believe that. And my gut tells me that he's a decent guy. So here's hoping that he finishes the job.
Oh,
Whatever values you have, little Ben, I don't want them.
Right. We don't want little Ben's values.
Definitely not.
We do not want little Ben's values.
But I'll tell you, one of the more difficult aspects of what ends up happening when we cover these stories, when it comes to the citizens of other parts of the world that don't get heard, particularly in Argentina and in Israel, there are citizens who are not on board with what the powers that be are doing. Very often their voices get blocked out.
Because they're generally the working class people.
Very true. And they're also in a hyper minority in a place like Israel. Now, in Argentina, they haven't fully taken over that country yet. But I want to preface this with everything always gets back to economics. And while this is in Spanish, it is subtitled. So I want you to understand exactly what is going on right now in Argentina economically, because everybody was focused on this after the World Cup. It's actually quite devastating how bad things are right now. Here we go.
Story time de cómo me quedé sin trabajo.
Are we gonna get hit for
Ya van
music?
2 años que no consigo trabajo formal.
Casi 20 de cada 100.000 personas deciden quitarse la vida.
No puedo acceder a cosas que yo antes accedía mínimo una vez por mes. O sea, ni siquiera puedo acceder a comprarme ropa. Yo estudiaba en una universidad privada, tuve que dejar.
Well, we're seeing a typical right-wing fascist effect. That's what happens in states that end up with right-wing fascist authoritarian leaders.
I wish we had some people from Argentina in here right now that can explain it. Prices have more than tripled since Milei took office in December of 23. Tripled.
So that obviously then means that people are having less and having to struggle and can't get by. The voices we'll hear in this country will be the wealthy people. They'll be the wealthy Zionist elite class that will speak as if they are representative of Argentina. They're not. These people are probably mostly representative of Argentina. Unfortunately, their voice matters about as much as ours does.
Or that we even get to hear it. I mean, listen, if you're in the top 10, 20% of the population in any given right-wing country like Argentina is and has been for the past several years, yeah, I'm sure you're doing great. I'm sure you're having a wonderful time. For the 80 to 90% of the people that are not in that class, oh boy, it's tough, very tough. And now it's even tougher. And you don't really think these elections are above board, do you?
No, of course not.
¿podemos hablar de lo desesperanzador que es ser joven en Argentina?
Tengo 30 años, 2 títulos y estoy desempleada.
Tengo 800 CVs distintos para distintos tipos de trabajo. Hay muy pocas opciones de trabajo y las pocas opciones de trabajo que hay rozan la esclavitud y la explotación laboral.
Tengo 20.
Yeah. So it basically sounds like they are where we are. That's what our people are living with. People here can't afford to live either. So it sounds like they're having the same thing we are.
I mean, we keep saying that the Western alliance is fortifying their positions in South America all around Brazil. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is where World War III starts, because Brazil is not going to give in. Brazil is backed by Russia and China. They're in BRICS. These other countries that are surrounding them now are all basically Western right-wing puppet-run countries. Venezuela, we saw what they did there. Maduro was unwilling to play ball. Does anybody at this point think for a second that the only reason the shit went down in Venezuela is because Maduro refused to play ball? There's no other reason.
No, nobody believes it, but yet we're still illegally holding a democratically elected leader of a foreign nation in our custody.
Of course. And again,
technically, we kidnapped him and his wife.
Absolutely.
They've been kidnapped by a rogue nation.
Pretty much.
Tengo 25 años, estoy endeudado en más de 30 millones de pesos, sin trabajo.
Okay. This is the part that should make you very upset. In 2025, Argentina reported a 22% spike in suicides with over 5,200 deaths. That's a lot.
No, it's probably child's play compared to this country, but
maybe so.
I don't know. I'm just, it's, this is what's going to start. This is global. This is global. This is why when you talk about borders and immigrants and the imaginary lines, we are more connected to these people than we're connected to the people in charge in this country.
Oh, sure.
So if I'm going to draw a line in a border, it's going to be between me and those douchebags, not these people.
Well, again, I've always said that.
People.
Well, again, my whole thing about borders is about culture. That's all it really comes down to. But in terms of class, no, it's universal. It's like this all over the world. You can make arguments about, like, India, for example, which is insanely overpopulated at this point. But if you take them out of the equation, this is a universal problem all over the world. It just is. And this is what happens when capitalism is collapsing. Because it isn't just one country that's going to feel it. It's everybody, because the people who pull the levers of power are not going to hang themselves in order to save the world. They're going to hang the world in order to save themselves.
Well, they're trying.
Estoy cansada porque ya no sé qué más hacer. Perdón si me quiebro, pero ya van 2 años de esta situación y estoy desesperada.
Antes el sueño de nuestros padres era la casa propia, tener una casa propia. ¿Cuál es el nuestro?
Yeah, so this looks to me like what we're having here. That people with degrees are unemployed. Young people coming out of school have nowhere to work. And even if you get a job, it doesn't make enough money. So basically, they're living what we're living.
Colin, pull up the story, please. We'll run through this real quick before Mr. Mizrahi arrives. So, the question is, in Argentina, how does the citizenry feel about all this? Because this whole projection of, oh yeah, Argentina just absolutely loves Israel, that, this is exactly what we want. This is exactly who we need.
The elites that make money from all the things that are going to, profit from the Zios, moving there. And that's very few people. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing about what percentage of the country is actually on board with this. They're not. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't a portion of them that are, you know, and this is why I was a little bit more trepidatious about the way I would talk about Argentina versus Israel. We know in Israel that the overwhelming majority of the population embraces this genocidal Zionist cause.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas in Argentina, it's probably not it's not the same. Is this it, Colin? Because it doesn't look like it. This is not it, Colin. I need the story.
Don't talk to Colin that way.
I need the article about Israel and Argentina. If you need me to send it again, I will, but I know I sent it. That looks like it might be it. No, that's not it.
That's my story.
Oh, brother. Price of doing a show. Colin can't be freed. He is where he is. He gets his bread and water, as I like to say. This is unbelievable. This is why when you have like so many of these stories going off like at one time, I may have just sent it to myself, but okay. So.
Henry, you mean Zio hell.
All right, Colin, pull it up, please. The elites in every country are on board with whatever the American empire wants. That's
where capital is right now. So correct. At least for now, correct. This
is the whole thing about the de-dollarization that's become such a big problem. That's where you know it's going to end.
Iran right now, as far as I'm concerned, Iran is fighting for the soul of the earth.
Yeah.
They are. The resistance, whether in Iraq, whether Hezbollah, whether Hamas, whether Ansar Allah, those are the people that are fighting for the freedom for all peoples. And Iran is funding that. You know, we were always taught they were the largest funder of state-sponsored terror. Well, it turns out they're the largest funder of freedom fighters from our state-sponsored terror. So, yeah.
From World Cup 2026 this past week, Israel loves Argentina, but do Argentinians actually love them back? President Javier Milei has tied his country closely to Israel, you think? But polling shows most people in the country reject the relationship.
Whoever said he looks like a something Wolverine, that's pretty true. I'm going to go with he kind of looks like a pederass Wolverine, but I don't know.
He looks like a very creepy, smelly, disgusting. Wolverine. That's even worse. All right, keep going. Hours before Argentina faced Spain in the World Cup final, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu sent a message to President Milei. You are a friend, a great friend. We support you. We support Argentina in so many ways. Spain defeated Argentina, woohoo, 1-0 soon afterwards. But the match had already taken on a political meaning far beyond its footballing context. Across social media, many framed Argentina as Israel's team and Spain as Palestine's. The symbolism was not difficult to understand. Milei has made support for Israel a defining feature of Argentina's foreign policy. He has backed Netanyahu throughout the Gaza genocide, spoken publicly about converting to Judaism, and pledging to move Argentina's embassy to Jerusalem. Yeah, because those things really work out well. Keep going, Colin, please. Spain has moved in the opposite direction. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has condemned Israel's genocide in Gaza, called for those responsible to face arrest, and recognized the state of Palestine in 2024. Even the team's biggest stars became part of the contrast. Lionel Messi has drawn scrutiny over his previous links with Israel, while Spain's Lamine Yamal displayed a Palestinian flag after Barcelona won the league title. Every patriotic Israeli supports Argentina. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is subject to International Criminal Court, which is probably not going to exist for much longer. Arrest warrant for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed during Israel's genocide on Gaza. was not the only Israeli politician to support Argentina. Oh, Ben-Gvir is another one. Israel's ministers throughout his cabinet have also eagerly sought to push the comparison. Argentina's ambassador to Israel, Rabbi Shimon Axel Wanish, visited far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich before the final and presented him with an Argentina shirt with an official World Cup ball. That's sweet. That's very nice of him to do that. The ICC prosecutor has also reportedly requested an arrest warrant for Smotrich over war crimes and crimes against humanity committed against Palestine and the occupied West Bank. Every patriotic Israeli supports Argentina. Go Argentina, says Smotrich. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. We will love those who love Israel. Let's go Argentina. Transport Minister Mira Rogev. You get the idea. Let's keep going. But those are
does Argentina love Israel?
But do they? Jen, why don't you take a shot?
Well, I'm just curious. Does Argentina love Israel? Israel's embrace of Argentina arguably says more about Milei than it does about Argentina. After the semifinal victory over England, one supporter rejected the idea that the national team represented Israel's political camp. No Argentinian that is a real Argentinian supports Israel, she said. Don't believe our fucking president that has been put with money there. So in other words, they're the same as us in that regard, right? Like their leadership, quote unquote, and I use the term leadership loosely, does not represent their populace, is what it sounds like to me. A Pew Research Center survey conducted between February and May found that 55% of Argentinians held a very or somewhat unfavorable view of Israel. Only 21% viewed it favorably. And I'd be curious to know like their methodology and who they talk to. And did they specifically talk to the people that are living in the communities that are being completely Zio invaded? You know, and of course, those people are going to have terrible experiences with the Zios. Netanyahu made it clear that Israel's support rested on Milei rather than the country as a whole. They have a president who's a superstar. Milei is a huge friend of Israel, he said. Speaking to Argentina's ambassador, he added, I don't hide the fact that I'm an Argentina fan. Most Israelis are Argentina fans because President Milei has revolutionized Argentina's relations with us. We have no greater or better friend. Interesting.
What about us?
That's so interesting. Is Argentina bankrolling you?
What happened? They're cheating on us, Jen.
The transformation has been dramatic. Argentina recognized Palestinian statehood in 2010 under former President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. Meanwhile, Milei, a self-described anarcho-capitalist who took office in December 23, has since pulled the country into Netanyahu's orbit and made support for Israel central to his international identity. The contrast revives memories of Diego Maradona. Unlike Messi, the late Argentine football icon spoke openly about Palestine and met Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas during the 2018 World Cup. In my heart, I am Palestinian, Maradona said. Well, that makes sense why we'd get rid of him. We can't have that. We can't have people that are supporting the freedom of Palestinians.
Yeah, well, again, everything is driven by capital. That's the whole point.
Well, you're the capitalist of the two of us, so you know.
Well,
I
don't know what your point is.
I don't have a point.
That's exactly right. You don't have a point. You think that everything.
I don't have a point.
Again, there is something to be said for the human spirit versus human greed, and human spirit is driven in many different ways to succeed and create and profit, etc. However, human greed must be checked. And we live in a world today where human greed is not checked, not even a little bit. It is run roughshod, and part of it is because the system is falling apart. It is also because of the lethargy that has set in for far too many people to just accept things as they are. In the United States, people do not fight the way that they should.
Peter, am I a commie?
Maybe.
I'm not labeled. I don't have a label. I don't, yeah. I don't have a problem with private property, so that would not, I wouldn't thereby be a communist.
Yeah,
But
communist. Yeah,
yeah.
well, even trying to talk to people that think they know that a communist is a socialist is a communist is that's the same thing. And
I don't. But when you say, "Am I a feminist?" I mean, feminist just means that I support the concept that women and men should have equal rights. Like that's really all that that means. So yeah, I'm that. But I don't know. Stop trying to label me. I'm not. I am not labelable. I don't know.
Neither am I.
I am not a communist.
I am an American, though. I will embrace that.
Oh yeah. I don't have an ism. That's part of the thing. And I think that we would all do better if we didn't. And we just treated people properly. You know what I mean? Like, why do people need an ism? It's the same reason that people need upper management. I don't have a label. I agree with policies that I think are best for the majority of people. I support human rights and freedom of oppression for all people. I will support policies that will enable those things. And I generally don't have a label.
And that's also why, when it comes to these elections, you support somebody like Kshama Sawant, who is an independent. You support somebody like Abdullah Said, who is a Democrat. You support somebody, heck, like, Thomas Massey, who's a Republican. And the point is, I don't really care what party you're in. It doesn't mean anything to me. What matters is policy. What matters is honesty.
I believe that there are times and places and certain goods that I don't have a problem with those being for profit. But I do have a problem with social goods being for profit. So healthcare, education, corrections, utilities, broadband, internet, things that should be public goods, I do not support as for-profit entities, period. But if somebody wants to, let's say, make some fidget spinner thing and people are willing to pay money for that, and he wants to charge whatever he wants to charge for a fidget spinner, I don't care. Because that's not a necessary thing. I don't, people don't have a fundamental right to fidget spinners, so I don't give a shit. So it just depends. But what we are calling, what you consider, what this is capitalism, is not a free market. It's socialism for corporations.
Far from it.
We don't have a free market. So I don't know how I would feel about that.
We will see.
With you. But what I do know is that we can't have a functioning civilization when public goods are for profit. That's what I know.
Now, when we say, and again, we'll, hopefully, Alon Mizrahi is just running a little late, which is possible. He did confirm with Rachel a little while ago, saying that he would be on. So we are counting on that. But for the time being, this is a good example of why, when we talk about capitalism and we talk about elections, why so much of it is a farce when you get to the very top. Because when you get in the way of capital, that's when you find out how far they're willing to go. And this is a story that is personal to me because it's happening in my own backyard. Monroe, New Jersey is one town over from where I grew up in Manalapan. And they are trying to put in a data center in Monroe, New Jersey. And it turns out that the city council in Monroe, New Jersey does not want this. The people who live there don't want it. But the capitalist does. Oh, he really wants it. This New Jersey town banned AI data centers and then rejected a huge project to prove it. If you scroll up for a second, Colin, I want people to get a scope of how big this actually is. Can you even imagine how big that is? That's how big they want a data center to be.
No, it looks, that looks like 2 sawgrass mills.
Scroll down, maybe I'm wrong. That could easily be how big they are, but an aerial view of the 172-acre vacant farmland at third. So I am right. Black Horse Pike, in Monroe Township, owned by.
Well, it's big by New Jersey standards, but it's definitely not big by Utah standards of that data center.
Well, maybe not, but it's still pretty sizable when you think about what they're attempting to put. 172 acres? That's insanely huge. And they're putting that, right in Monroe is a heavily, again, it's not a superbly densely populated area, but it's populated nonetheless. A South Jersey town, again, Monroe is not south, it's central, but nevertheless, says that has officially shut the door on the data center after a local board denied a pending application. The planning board in Monroe Township in Gloucester County denied an application Tuesday for a proposed warehouse and data center project on 172 acres of vacant farmland along the South Black Horse Pike. The Gloucester County town recently...
Wait. Can I just ask you a question? Why is it vacant? How did it become vacant?
Well, it's farmland. I mean, maybe they,
Okay. So I got that. I got that it's farmland.
Right.
Why is it vacant?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I bet you if you dig back, there's a connection that goes from this story as to why it's vacant. I'm just saying, because we'd rather have the farmland.
Well, that's true. The Gloucester County town recently approved ordinances banning data centers, including AI facilities. Some residents worried the high-powered AI data centers would consume too much electricity and water and generate excessive noise for neighbors. Oh, you have no idea how bad it is. You've only heard. You haven't lived it yet, but then you'll see. Keep scrolling. Oh, so this is all that they are permitting you to get. So this is one part of the story. Now let's get to the other part. Let's get to the juicy part. New Jersey town is being sued for $300 million after banning data centers on 170 acres of former farmland.
This is infuriating on so many levels. I wanted to, when you sent me this was the image that came up. And when I first saw the green, I'm like, oh, it's an Onion article. So I saw it and I'm like, oh, they're being sued, saying that this developer is saying that this ban on the data center violates free speech. They're actually claiming that it violates free speech to not allow a data center.
Oh, yeah. After
I agree, Sonia.
After Monroe Township, New Jersey, banned data centers. Developer Hexa Builders sued for $300 million, claiming the ban violates free speech.
And how do they do that? So Hexa argues that data centers are a medium of expression since they support AI and social media, invoking First and 14th Amendment claims. Just when you think you've seen all this shit. So then basically what we're saying then, right, is that any media outlet, any type of media outlet, that the building of it is a First Amendment issue? I don't think so. I do not think that the First Amendment applies to actual physical land. Or a building existing on land in a particular place. That is so. Although we have Citizens United, so who knows? They might find that.
Sable, if this is teaching us anything, is that when you get to the very top of the economic ladder, there are no rules. You cannot BDS your way out of data centers because the people who control the global money supply have decided that this is what's going to happen at the expense of the people, no matter what they want, no matter what they threaten. Now what is ultimately going to end up happening is how violent it's going to get. That's going to be the deciding factor. Tucson voted down a data center and the Arizona Corporate Commission overruled it. So the fight continues. Again, this is why we say this is revolution or bust. There is nothing else. Because every time they're going to
need direct action. These things cannot continue like this. They just can't. And we're in a Luigi situation.
Mm-hmm. And what's going to end up happening here, which should come as no surprise to anybody, residents packed public meetings for months to fight the project, and Monroe's mayor says the ban will be defended vigorously and zealously. But here's the thing. whenever the next election is coming up, Hexa is going to pump $10 million into the mayor's race behind the candidate that will do what they say. That's how it works. And so we believe in fighting fire with fire. And if this is the game they want to play, yeah.
It's infuriating.
If this is a game they want to play, Colin, please pull up the link. So let's teach them a lesson. They want to play this? Fine. We'll do it too. Here is their website. This is Hexa's website.
It looks like something out of like an apocalyptic movie.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And let's click on About Us. So, or our team. Let's go to our team so that everybody gets to see who they are. Deepal Patel. Here's your CEO. Here's the guy who does this. He's the one responsible. So there's your person. And remember, this is public information. It's not like I am doxing him with his.
No, but what will happen is we'll start seeing like what happened after the Luigi, where all these companies start scrubbing their people from their websites, as if you still couldn't look it up, but a lot of people won't bother to do the extra steps.
Correct. Deepal Patel, Chief Executive Officer, as the CEO of Hexa. Deepal leads with a blend of visionary leadership, strategic acumen, and a passion for cultivating talent. With a diverse background spanning various industries, he brings a wealth of experience in team management and business development to the table. Deepal's primary focus at Hexa is driving growth through a commitment to assembling top talent and fostering a unified vision and work ethic. He believes success begins and ends with the people involved, and he's a people person.
Sounds like it, Colin.
Listen,
you know, it's a shame. It's a shame. I wish it was, if it was Cash Patel, I have the graphic. I don't have one for this guy.
I don't know. His eyes are definitely talking, though. I'll give you that.
Well, I could, look just for shits and giggles. I mean, woo!
Turning inward. That's
there we
for sure.
Go. Okay.
Deepal finds joy in exploring the world with this. I'm sure he does. There's a hell of a lot of money to spend. With his family, engaging in a range of sports activities and delving into the complexities of fundamental physics. His favorite mantra, do hard things. Be best. We
do good things. We fight for good things.
And we don't like bad things.
And we
reflects
don't
his belief in the transformative power of tackling challenges head on and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Yeah, like screwing over society. There's the VP, and there's one other person that I do want to highlight here.
Well, they definitely have their DEI down here. Look at that.
Yeah, Trisha Ursino. Let's go.
Wait. Where's the black guy? There's no black guy? Oh, I'm very surprised.
No, but there is Christopher Regan, the construction manager.
Yeah, but that's just a white guy.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm highlighting here. I'm highlighting the fact that this is the guy responsible for basically the building permits and all the wonderful things that come along with it. With more than 25 years of an industry experience, Christopher excels as a construction manager at Hexa. He recently celebrated a major achievement by successfully completing the Rajapio project, an active adult community featuring 150. So these are investors. These are commercial real estate investors who figured out that data centers is where the real money is. And that's all it is, guys.
Well, yeah, but when we have the right amount of direct action, and I don't know what's been going on with warehouse fires, because that stuff is probably not going to be making the news. They don't want to give anybody any ideas, but we have to make it so that it's not affordable. That's the only thing that they'll listen to, is once the cost becomes prohibitive for them to profit off of what they're doing is when they scrap the project. And that's the only reason they'll scrap a project. They don't do it because it could hurt people. They don't give a shit. So you have to do things that make the project cost prohibitive. And that usually involves direct action. And when you do that, you get things like insurance companies not willing to insure the property because they don't trust that somebody's not going to come and set it on fire. And those are the kinds of actions that the data centers will eventually have to respond to if there's enough direct action, because once it becomes not profitable, that's the only thing they care about. So,
That is the only thing that ever stops anything. There is no humanity in this. That's the thing. And that's why, a lot of times people are anticipating when they look at these companies and they think they're just going to see a fleet of old white men. Here's the thing, guys. They just happen to make up a large majority of those people. But if you think that this ever comes down to race, creed, culture, no. This is capitalism at the highest level. It knows no race. It knows no creed. It knows no color. Well, it knows green. They know that color. But in the end, you saw a DEI, if you will, organization. And they're as cold-blooded and as inhumane as anybody can possibly be. They know what they're doing. There is no way that there isn't one fucking investor out there today who doesn't know the detrimental effects of a data center and what it does. No way. But it can make you very rich. And there are far too many people who are willing to look the other way in order to achieve their wealth and their goals. And that's it, at the expense of others. And this is why money is a very fickle concept that still doesn't really mean what people think it means. The idea that anybody thinks that Elon Musk is worth $1 trillion is just, they're stupid. If Elon
I don't think he's worth $1.
Well, his humanity.
I guess it all depends on what we find worthy, doesn't it? Let's say if he was for sale, there's no amount of money that I would take to even have a meal with him.
If you look at all of the major assassinations that took place, particularly in the 1960s, starting with JFK, then Malcolm, then Bobby, or then Martin, and then Bobby. And what do they all have in common? Most, if not all, of the reasoning behind why they were killed was because they were trying to push a class uprising. Whether it was because of the military-industrial complex, as was the primary driver behind everything related to Israel that ultimately led to JFK's assassination, whether it was because Malcolm X was unapologetic about the liberal and what they really represented in the capitalist structure, whether it was Martin Luther King, who was initially about the racial divide, which became the working class divide, and then he died. And then, of course, you have Bobby Kennedy, who was not only fighting for the working class, but also promised to open up a thorough investigation, superseding that of the Warren Commission, in order to investigate his brother's death. And then he was killed. History has always shown that everything is based on capital. It goes, you win some, you lose some, but sociopathic, narcissistic behavior never goes away. The problem is, we now have really no way of checking it. And once all those guardrails are out of the way, now you see why you get people like Milei. Now you see how you get people like Trump. That's how you get people like Modi. That's how you get this new douchebag in Colombia. That's why it's such a shining example of what Scheinbaum is doing in Mexico, but very few people talk about it. The fact of the matter is, she's basically a socialist, she is Jewish, and she's anti-Zionist. So you're not going to hear much about the good things she's doing, including giving universal health care to her citizens. True universal health care. You don't hear anybody talking about it. Because how could you? Then people would be asking questions, hey, how come they get health care at the point of service, real health care? It's better than ours. And then people would be demanding things. So there is radio silence. We think we're informed, but we're only informed to the degree in which we are allowed to be informed. That's the problem with the media reach. That's why the stories we cover here never really hit the crescendo that we would like them to. Despite our audience size, despite the positive feedback we get from the work that we do, it doesn't matter because we are not playing ball the way they want us to. And heck, like I said, if you've got a really good candidate who's running for office, that would be all the reason in the world to support them because what they're doing is right. But then you get to somebody like Kshama Sawant who's running as an independent. And she is a real threat to the machine. And now you find out that even in the face of somebody who is co-authoring the very bill that is the definition of treason, the merging of two militaries, one from us and one from another country, that eliminates sovereignty. That is in the definition of our founding documents that is treason. But who cares?
And that very well might be true about Scheinbaum. That's fine. It is. I don't really expect the president of a country to, go do that. Like, but she's done more than most.
We really appreciate you, Sonia. You're one of our faves.
We appreciate it. It's all helpful. I agree. Yes, but no. And I said that when I first read, what was it? 224. Wasn't it 224? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is unconstitutional.
219.
219. Oh, because one was the House bill, one was okay. Right. When I read that, and I think I even said it reads unconstitutional to me. So again, but what is that? So then that gets determined by a Supreme Court that at this point is completely unpredictable.
Yeah,
you've got right people going with the left people and left people going with the right people. Like, it's political and unpredictable now. So who knows? But I do find that this law to be unconstitutional. Well, also, by the way, I think it's the downfall of empire.
Yeah.
So I'm here for it, but it is a violation of our Constitution.
I definitely agree. And I think here we are once again, staring down the barrel of the gun and asking ourselves, how much more of this bullshit do we actually expect ourselves to take, knowing full well that this whole two-party divide, this left and right bullshit, it's not going to solve anything, because we are now facing the precipice of, I mean, look, is it possible that this bill could fail in the Senate? Yeah, anything's possible. But you're telling me they can't put the screws to at least 7 or 8 Democrats to get them to cross over? As much as they say that it's not going to matter, trust me when I tell you, they can put the screws to them as tightly as they want. They can go after the Democrats who, let's say, are elected and have 4 more years to go. 4 years is that's a lifetime in politics for people to revert back to a vote that they cast, 4 years prior. But this is a big one.
Facts.
Yeah.
Pete,
it could be constitutional and it's still wrong and it's still evil. Data centers could be constitutional and they're wrong and they're evil.
I know. I just like to, as a point of reference, remind people that there is, in fact, a constitution. And if we would actually abide by it, we'd be in much better shape. Yeah. A lot of the problems that we have is because we do not follow the Constitution. If we actually followed the Constitution, we wouldn't be in any of these wars, because our Congress hasn't declared war. So, I am a supporter and a proponent of the Constitution. I like it. I think it's pretty friggin' good. Could use some work. But in general, yeah, I think it's good.
If we've learned anything from Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, especially since they're no longer, technically in Congress anymore, you find out who is really in it for the right reasons. Because the one thing we've learned for years and years that we've been doing this is that almost everybody who's on Capitol Hill is in it for a career. They do not have anything to fall back on. They're not skilled people who could go into the private sector and do something useful. Marjorie Taylor Greene lives very close to where Jen is and runs a family business, and she has no intentions of going back to Capitol Hill, at least as far as I know. And if she does, it would only be in a legislative capacity. She is not going to K Street to lobby for some big pharma, big oil, or pro-Israel organization. But she's especially not going there to lobby on behalf of the military-industrial complex.
We'll make sure that whoever replaces Lindsey Graham is 100% dedicated to the American war economy. And it's the American war economy that we have to defeat, Cenk. That is one of the biggest things that I don't care how you vote, left, right, middle, in between, or you're sick of voting. That is the number one problem that we have to rip by the root out of both parties and out of Washington, D.C.
Why can she say that, but nobody who is supposedly progressive gets up there and says the same thing? Why does it have to be somebody who's on the conservative libertarian side of politics? Granted, she's not there. So she has a lot more leeway, but she is basically blowing the entire lid off of this. You see, she understood what was ahead of her. She probably came to terms very early on that she could not, in good faith, no matter what. This is why you know some of these people are psychopaths. Marjorie Taylor Greene is loony. There's no question about it, but she's not a psychopath. And when she saw what was going on in Gaza within the first few days, she probably said, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this.
Guys, we don't know where he is. He confirmed with us this afternoon. We are not sure where Alon is. It's no fault of ours, but we'll keep you posted.
We're working on it. We're still trying to get him in here. That's why we had to move on and do another segment.
It happens.
It does.
It happens.
Mm-hmm. It's not the first time. Won't be the last. And Marjorie is absolutely correct. And I can appreciate that. And that's why. Why is it so important that people get forceful and make these statements to step up and prove that you are actually America? It's not even about being America first. It's about actually supporting your countrymen and supporting your country that is going to hell. We are going to hell. And this is one of the reasons why we're going to hell.
שיש לא רק במשרד התובע, אלא ב-ICC כולו. אני שוחחתי עם מזכיר המדינה מרקו רוביו אמש, ושוב הוא חזר באוזניי על הכוונה של ארצות הברית לפעול בתקיפות נגד הארגון הזה, שמסכן את הצדק בעולם, ומסכן גם את הזכות של מדינה.
I want you to get this fuck where he breathes. I want you to find this Nancy boy Elliot Ness. I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground. I want to go to the middle of the night. I want to piss on his head.
This fuck is sitting in wherever he is, Tel Aviv, who fucking knows where he is.
I don't think so.
From his bunker, wherever he's hiding. But the point is this, he is making a statement that not only does he agree with the United States government led by Marco Rubio, that not only should they dismantle the International Criminal Court, but that is the organization that is endangering justice around the world. And there are people in this country who support him.
Very few.
Now,
very,
I really wish Alon was here, and hopefully we'll get here, because there is something that he has mentioned at great length, which I very much appreciate. Fact of the matter is, one of the reasons why FDR is one of the greatest presidents we ever had is because the people at the head of the government for many generations, they agree with Nazism. They agree with Zionism. Why do you think in the years after FDR and into the years of Truman, LBJ, that's why Kennedy was so unique when he got in, because remember, it was former Nazis that the U.S. intelligence agencies were hiring to fight the Cold War against Russia. Or do we forget that part? We weren't hiring Soviet expats here in the United States to deal with Russia. No, we were hiring Nazi war criminals to come work for us. And that's why when we ask ourselves, how does this happen? How do we get stuck with this shitbag who basically runs our country? There's why. Again, revolution or bust. That's why we keep saying it.
מדינות דמוקרטיות, מדינות ריבוניות, להפעיל את הריבונות שלהם, ובעצם מנסה לשעבד את ביטחונם להחלטות של פקידות מושחתת בהאג.
Be careful, Jen. He might actually call the cops on you. We're very threatening here. Rothbone will come on here soon enough. We'll make it happen.
Rachel, please reach out to Andrew when you get a minute.
Real Bays, we're going to be setting up a chat soon, brother. Thanks for checking in. And here is an example. If you really want to see the danger of what happens when you just allow unchecked Zionist bullshit, whether you like Zoran or not, let me assure you, the Zionists are doing everything they can to try to get this guy assassinated.
Jewish New Yorkers who feel you're fueling anti-Semitism.
Free NYC!
Jewish New Yorkers rallied on the Upper West Side Sunday against anti-Semitism and hate.
It's important to come here today in order to show that we will not be silenced.
Nobody is silencing that guy, Jen.
I want to know if around this thing there were any anti-protesters of like Jewish Voice for Peace and those people. Okay.
You'll see.
This comes days after a Jewish man and an Asian man were stabbed in the neighborhood. 51-year-old Raul Morales has been arraigned on 2 counts of second-degree attempted murder as a hate crime, among other charges.
Yeah, he looks right in the head.
Very
He
right.
Oh, he looks right in the head. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Protesters here railed against Mayor Mamdani and a video he released earlier this week in which the mayor conceded that he does not have the authority to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling instead on the federal government to arrest him.
Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City.
That is an insightful video inciting violence.
I want to punch you in the face, Lizzie. I do. I do. And I am not a violent person, but I look at her and it's infuriating. Sorry.
If you're giving the microphone to somebody like her, you've already discredited any effort you think you're making as a just cause. But we all know it's all bullshit. There's no just cause here. Lizzie Savetsky is one of the most spoiled Jap brats I've ever seen. This is
very, very representative of like the people where I grew up. It is. It's unfortunate, but it is.
How about the freaking crime that she got away with when she went up to Spike Lee's mailbox? Filmed where he lived. Basically.
She incites violence by making people want to be violent against her. I agree. It's its own kind of violence incitement.
But I am convinced that that's what Zionists do. This is the whole concept. This is why I've constantly tried to tell people, you have to be able to you have to make the distinction between the two. If you do not make the distinction, people like Savetsky get all the fuel that they want. When you say it's the Jews, even if you think it is, and even if you think we have a Jewish problem, which in some respects we do, don't get me wrong. However, if you are trying to deal with this problem, you are only helping them by making it that way. They're looking for anything that they can use. Anything. Because they know they're on borrowed time.
People like her are creating anti-Semitism because they're so despicable and just so abhorrent. And they walk around parading that it's based on their Judaism. Yep. So that is completely fostering anti-Semitism. Oh, in addition to the Holocaust that's happening. Yes.
Continue.
You, Mamdani, are throwing gasoline on the fire, pitting one community against the other.
I asked the mayor about this. What do you say to Jewish New Yorkers who feel you're fueling anti-Semitism?
I would say first and foremost is there's no tolerance for anti-Semitism in this city. We have to root out anti-Semitism from across the 5 boroughs, and that's because this is a city that is one that has no room for hate or bigotry of any kind. And when we make criticisms of a nation state or policies, we have to remember that those are criticisms of exactly that. Never of a people, never of a faith.
The rally was met with counter-protesters defending the mayor.
They're against Jews because of what the Zionists are doing, and they think that the Jews are responsible. He is doing a job to clarify that it's not Judaism. He is doing the Jews a favor.
Thank you, Rabbi Learned Sir.
He's doing them a big favor.
Well, if only his voice was loud enough to be really going against what's going on right now everywhere. But yes.
Well, this also gets back to the whole concept of class. You have to remember, whether this is on a Sunday or even a weekday, it wouldn't matter because the overwhelming majority of the people that are there protesting are affluent. They can afford to do this.
Right. Let me tell you something. Nary a working class Jew there.
Bingo.
The latest NYPD data shows about a 2% increase in anti-Jewish hate crimes citywide so far this year compared to last.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they made it sound like there was like a 600% increase.
And here's the thing. It's this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like there are going to be increased Jewish hate crimes because people like you incite violence to people want to hurt you. Even when nonviolent people want to hurt you, there's no telling what the regular people and violent people want to do, right? Like you're tempting fate.
Mm-hmm. The Justice Department says its Civil Rights Division is investigating this double stabbing along with the NYPD. Both victims are expected to survive, and the suspect is being held without bail.
Don't worry. They'll find a manifesto. They'll find something. Anything.
Well, aren't they? What is this? I think I might be getting different news stories confused. This is the one. Are they blaming this one on a Muslim man?
No, he's Puerto Rican, I believe.
Okay, Puerto Rican. Okay, then I'm thinking of something else. There was something else that I saw recently that I'm like, oh, that's a nice false flag.
Well, Josie says his name is Rabbi Dove
Dove
Feldman. Yeah.
Dove Feldman. Yeah.
Let me tell you something, guys.
Thank you.
One of my favorite guests that we've had on the live stream is Rabbi Brant Rosen. I think he's great.
Yeah. I'd love to get him back. I think we've reached out. I don't know if he's just like not doing that now.
He's actually in St. Louis right now helping out Cori Bush. So
oh, cool.
Yeah. Cori Bush is someone we support, and she's running in the Democratic Party, and she's likely to get her seat back from Wesley Bell. After all that fucking money that they had to toss in there to get him out, and now they have to do it again.
I will say Cori is decent people. She is. Cori's good people.
Yeah.
That I can say that like she is. Cori's good people. Yeah.
And I also want to remind people that when you look on the global side, there is no question that they're changing dramatically very quickly.
Marvin, we've had Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro on. So yeah.
Not Ben Shapiro. You always have to
Benjamin, that is so savvy. I love that. Yes. That's what savvy calls. I'm assuming that's why. If you also coincidentally thought that, that's awesome. But that's what savvy calls him, and it's really funny.
I thought I saw something that said 9 p.m., which means it would be your time. So let's assume that maybe he was off by an hour. And if that's the case, we do have some more that we can get to. But since we're always good at how we produce, because that's half the battle, let's get to the super chatters, because you guys have been amazing already tonight. You guys understand the assignment. You understand how important it is to keeping our channel afloat and growing, ever so slightly, but still growing. Patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed yet still growing channel. We just passed 129,000 subscribers the other day. Substack.com @revolutionary change. Still trying to get Jen to write a Substack once a month. That's all I want. Just one a month. And I'll take care of the rest.
Alaikum assalam. SS Wolfenstein.
And also, you can go over to Instagram, TikTok, and Rumble. And before we get into it, I do want to give a big shout out because I unfortunately made a boo-boo on Saturday. And that boo-boo was me forgetting to give a shout out to 4 Rumble rants that came in.
You didn't.
I did.
How
did.
Dare
So we
you.
got to give them up. Got to give a shout out. First Rumble rant of the evening is for Gez82 for $1. Tea Party also tried. Yes, they have. And still have a fighting group of people, but not nearly what they once were. And Gez82 also from Saturday with the $2. Great show, Peter. I appreciate it. And Gez82 also with the $1 Flock Hopper app. It's free. The story we talked about with the Flock cameras, you have an Israeli company coming in now to basically overtake Flock and make it Axon. Axon is the Israeli-backed company that Trump is. We're really heavily invested in this really great technology over there. That's what we're going to do. Mary Ploppins with the $1. Please get Ren Del Rosario on the show. Not familiar, but we'll look that up.
Freedom for Palestine. We were just talking about that. We're not sure. He confirmed with us this afternoon. We don't know what happened. So we're saying if maybe it was a time zone thing and he comes on at 9 and he just because we don't know exactly. We're trying to figure it out, but it happens.
Longmeadow with the $1. Thank you to everyone at Revolutionary Change. Thank you, Longmeadow. Really appreciate it. And so for our YouTube super chatters, Kenman with the 279 Canadian A, Boca Raton, also Zio Heaven. it's Zio hell. It's hell. It's not heaven. Definitely not heaven. Goba 82 with the 999. I watched the Krystal Ryan Kshama interview and actually felt they were better to her than I thought they would be. I do agree the Democratic Party and supporters need to be defeated and exposed. Yes, listen, they let her, like I said, it wasn't a total miss, but there is no question that they were given certain instructions in terms of how to frame the conversation. That's part of how it's done. Very appreciative that they gave her the platform because most people loved what she had to say. And it's going to be viewed by at least 100 to 200,000 people. And as a result, it could very well help her in the home stretch of the election, as we hope it will. Deep Green VO, thank you for becoming a YouTube member.
Thank you. I recognize him. Wait a second. He's not new.
No, but he's given us super chats before, but he hasn't been.
Yes, and Deep Green, I think I also know you from Sabby, from her chat. Her chat is way big, so like I don't comment in there because I would never be able to keep up, and I would never be able to maintain a conversation in her chat. But anywho, I think he's familiar from that.
Pirate Justin with the $2. Free Colin, unionize. We're for unions until it's
all right.
our
Look, if Colin and Rachel and Ben want to get together and form a union, we'll discuss it.
Then we can make no money and they can get all of it. That's basically what would end up happening.
Well, what's so funny about it is with those three is that they it's not like they do the same thing. So they don't, it's not like a certain, we're not a factory, but if they want to come to us with some demands, we will accept a union here, Revolutionary Change.
Saucy Spice with the $4.99. I heard Venezuelan oil went to Paul Singer and Israel and none to U.S. Is this true? I can't tell you if it's true or not, but if you told me it is and it turned out to be true, it would not surprise me in the least. And
I don't know that either. I don't know that story.
But Paul Singer is one of the absolute worst Zionist billionaires out there, bar none, period. Paul Singer is also one of the, along with Miriam Adelson, the two most high-profile, biggest funders of the election against Thomas Massie. They gave Galreen all the money, basically. So Paul Singer can, well, I'm going to be polite and just say, fuck you, Paul Singer.
I don't even know who that is, by the way.
Real Bays with the $20 contribution. Our economy is being weaponized against us to a point where it's plausible to believe that our economic issues are manufactured. Inflation is good for those with assets. I look forward to chatting. So do I. Yeah,
Thank you.
Real Bays and I will do a one-on-one very soon. We'll hopefully stick around for that one, guys. Comrade Cranky with the $5. Justice for the beautiful little children of Gaza.
That's what we're like. I'll be working for that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You never
that's going to be, because I don't know that can ever happen, but that's now will be the mission. And that's, the level of rage isn't going to just go away. It's not going to go away. So justice will be sought.
Mm-hmm. Sonia, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate you. Carson Cruz with the $10. Thank you, Jen and Peter. Carson Cruz decided he was not done.
Thank you so much, Carson.
Very much appreciated. Pirate Justin with the $10. Don't lump all data centers together. Not a fan of AI data centers, but we need traditional ones. We use data centers at my work. We produce products and services for union workers. We are owned by unions. Hey, I'm not here to tell you that again, I'm in commercial real estate. I understand industrial warehouses and large-scale building properties. There is always going to be a need for these things. If you want to have any advancements in technology, it is necessary. But to the extent to which it has become, and the fact that we know that AI data centers are completely unnecessary as far as I'm concerned, and the devastating effects that these warehouses do to the environment, yeah, I got a big fucking problem with them, and so should everybody else. So distinction with a difference. Carson Cruz again with the $10. And thank you, Colin. Colin,
Special for Colin.
Colin made a few bucks tonight. There you go. Marvin Vargas with the $4.99. Please get Steve and Yana Sutova Benin on Noahide laws implementation in U.S. Their show, Israeli News, live Steve, ex-FBI, and they are ex-Zionist.
Huh.
Rach, if you're watching, that one will be very helpful for sure. So there you go. You guys have obviously contributed quite a bit. Now, I saw this story come up earlier today, and it was one that I hadn't really thought much of, but for anybody who's ever paid attention to the hip hop world, or is at least somewhat familiar with it, and Hot Dog with the $5, Jen and Pete are masters of karate and friendship for everyone.
I keep seeing people talking about Alon. Guys, we're not sure what happened. He confirmed with us. We're waiting to see if he pops on at 9 because maybe there was a time zone confusion for him. We're not sure. And if he doesn't come on, we will try to reschedule. And yeah, I think this is a good point right here too, what David Hunter is saying. That is ultimately what we're talking about. So when we have people saying traditional old school data centers that are actually what you're talking about, yeah, that's not necessarily what we're talking about.
No,
we're talking about this whole new rash that we're seeing that are AI, but are basically surveillance state centers.
Well, that's why language matters. It's true. It's true. And we can make a conscious effort to talk to say it that way.
You want to talk about that? You have something to say?
Rufio?
Peter's got something to say, Rufio.
Maybe you should look into how the Vanguard boys feel about Kshama Sawant. Let's leave it at that. The Vanguard boys have been boosted and supported by Krystal and Kyle for a while. And that's where I think a lot of their supporters come from. And look, Jimmy does the same thing with a handful of channels, and they get their support from that as well. But the difference between somebody like Jimmy and Krystal and Kyle is that Jimmy supports Kshama Sawant. And that matters. You have to be willing to break away from this system. And far too often there are gatekeepers, people who want to make money.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Well, I mean, we kind of call them Scooby and Shaggy, but
you call them that.
You call them that too.
Well, it's just for all fun. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I believe even if Keaton and Russell think they're Beavis and Butthead is really reserved for the Trump boys.
That's it right there. That might be it. That might be it, the church.
Maybe. And I just very casually pointed out to them that, hey, we raised a decent amount of money.
You guys are the best. I love our chat. You guys come up with the best stuff. Like we're really good at that adding on each other.
Well, I think the measure for me is always Ukraine. Like if you support the war in Ukraine,
except for that's what I call Trump's kids.
That's what I said.
Eric and Don Jr.
How spaced out are you right now? Good Lord.
Our chat is so good. You guys are the best.
So if anybody has followed hip hop over the years, that makes sense. Yeah, well, again, like I said, Kyle goes on with them. Kyle boosts their work. They've made more than enough money, especially Krystal. Krystal's very wealthy.
Don't talk about other people's stuff. Like, seriously, we don't need to do that. That's irrelevant.
The point is, what are you in this for? If we were in this for money, we could have easily just figured out ways to sell it a long time ago. In the end, there is...
I will be honest, nobody's offered me anything. So,
Jen, can I please? Can
yes. Just keeping it real.
Not now, you're not. Now it's dragging. So can you stop, please?
I don't know.
So if anybody has followed hip hop over the years, most of you have heard of Russell Simmons, Def Jam. He was very big, especially in the 90s. And then in fairly recent times, the stories started to come out about the things he used to do from a sexual exploitative perspective. And they're not good. In fact, they're outright bad, and we will talk about them later. Why am I going to have to talk about them later, Jen?
Apparently, our guest is here. We're excited. So I'm
I
now
did say I called that right. That was off by 1 hour. So that does happen.
Because he is being, yes, everybody, our guest is arrived. So this is exciting. So we don't have to wonder anymore.
Alon Mizrahi, and one of the reasons why I've wanted to bring this gentleman on for a while is because Alon not only is an ex-Zionist like Jen, but he actually comes from Palestine. They call it Israel. But these are the types of voices that have the most impact. The people who are from the inside, who can talk about exactly what this world is, how the deception of what the world really represents, and why the change is going to come from people like Jen and Alon Mizrahi. Welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm happy to be with you. Thanks.
I'm so glad to see you. It's been a while. And so because we are now have a much bigger audience and a lot of new people have joined us, would you just give a brief, like your bio and, you know, obviously why that's relevant, where you're from and how you grew up?
I grew up in Israel. I'm a writer and a political commentator. I used to do this in Israel as well. In short, I left the country after October 7 when I realized it was going crazy and terminally crazy. I realized it's not for me and I can't be a part of this anymore. I had stopped being a Zionist like years before that. I realized this whatever remained of the Zionist dream or fantasy or fiction, for me, it died on the march of return and what Israel did then. If you remember, if your audience remembers, I suggest people Google it, search it. You'll see this was the trauma that really broke me, that got me disillusioned completely with Zionism and Israel. I hung on for a while. I still lived in Israel, but after October 7, I realized it was going into dark and dangerous places, which I wanted no part of. So basically, this is my just the background.
That's
for
great.
people to know who's talking.
And the other thing is, I was hoping you could touch on, you know, we hear a lot about Mizrahi Jews and what that is and what the distinction is in Israel. And I don't think people really understand what that means and how there's like a certain level of prejudice that exists in a certain way in Israel between Ashkenazi Jews and even the fact that we call people Mizrahi Jews.
Okay. Because this is a visual medium and people can see me and they can see my skin tone, it's not only because I got a nice tan in Mexico, where I am at the moment. This is because I'm Arab. I'm a Jewish Arab. And this subject and this group of people is so, I mean, because some of us have spoken about this since October 7, and I spoke to Al Jazeera about this back when I was still talking to them about this. So more people are aware of this, but we have gotten into this ridiculous point where through representation in Western media, in especially American media, I mean, the shallowest country that anyone could ever imagine, really, this is I can talk about this forever. People actually believe that the Jews look and sound like Chuck Schumer or Jerry Seinfeld. And this is what Jews are supposed to look like, and this is how they're supposed to sound like. And the whole, not only the actual Semitic origins of the Hebrew tribe or the Hebrew religion, of everything about Judaism claims to come from this. This does a terrible wrong to a big group of people, to Jews who used to live in Arab countries, not only Arab countries, also in Iran, also in India, some brown and even black Jews in Ethiopia and other places. There's a very wide variety of people who look very different from the Ashkenazi type that we used to see, and Western audiences are used to see on Western media. Now, why is this important? This has many layers to it and many aspects, but basically Zionism began as an Ashkenazi movement. This began in Eastern Europe and Central Europe. And in the first Zionist, the first conferences that they had, the Zionist Congress that they had in Switzerland, they only had representatives from European countries. Jews from Poland, Jews from Austria, Jews from Germany, Jews from Czech, this country and the UK and France and so on and so on and so on. They didn't even, in the wildest dreams, think that they should include Moroccan Jews and Iraqi Jews and Yemeni Jews and Egyptian Jews and Palestinian Jews and Iranian Jews and Afghani Jews. They used to be Jews in Afghanistan. And just this is a long history. It's a complicated story, but as things happened in reality, after Israel was established in 1948, and as a result of this Jewish European effort, after the settlers in 1948 defeated the Arab militaries with the generous help of Western powers and European countries, they realized that they have not enough people to settle the land. They need other people they can call Jews to be workers, to populate the country which they mostly emptied, because they kicked the Palestinians out. And this is when they realized there's a pool of Jews that they had no connection with, no relationship with. They spoke a different language, that prayed differently, that they had a whole different ethos and tradition. And they realized this was their best chance to create this fantasy land that they had in mind. So what they did was they created, they made life circumstances for Arab Jews bad in Egypt and Iraq, in other places, through terrorist campaigns, and they came to Morocco. Was the biggest Arab Jewish community in a Muslim country, around 300,000 people in many different communities. Marrakesh had 30,000 Jews living in one big neighborhood. So this wasn't like a small villages of 5 or 6 people. These were large and deeply rooted communities which lived in their places for centuries and sometimes more. because there were Jews in Iraq for over 2,000 years, and in Morocco for over a millennia. So these are people who are indigenous to West Asia, who speak the language of West Asia, who speak Arabic. Their mother tongue was Arabic, or Berber languages, Amazigh languages, as they call it in Morocco or that part of the world, or Persian in Iran, and so on and so on and so on. They sent delegates to those communities. People were very innocent. They never believed that some fancy Jews from Switzerland or New York would come to their communities and lie to them about the wonderful life that they should be expecting. And the dream of the Jewish Messiah is now becoming real. And you can all come and live in Jerusalem. This is what they told those innocent people in all those countries. And they got most of them, many of them. Basically, there is no more Jewish life in the Arab and Islamic world. There's a small Jewish community in Iran. This is like one relic. But throughout the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, there are no more Jews. A whole civilization, or a collection of civilizations, basically was wiped off existence. Not by Nazis, and not by the Romans, and not by any empire, but by Ashkenazi Jews. Through Zionist activity and the heavy marketing of they did for Zionism to populate. And once they came to this supposedly promised land, they were treated immediately like second-class citizens, not full Jews, not full human beings. Something between the full human beings, the white European Jews, and the fully animal Palestinians. There was something in the middle, and they were sent. They were not allowed to reside historically, Arab Jews didn't live in central Israel. For instance, Tel Aviv was reserved for Ashkenazi Jews.
Right.
Tel Aviv remained white. It still is to this day. I mean, many Arab Jews and their children and grandchildren moved into Tel Aviv, but it is a very white city. They were sent to the south and the north, to Ofakim, Dimona, Sderot, Eilat, all those small towns on the edges of occupied Palestine, and they were meant to be used as cheap labor, usually working for the Ashkenazi kibbutzim in their factories, because immediately there was a division of a class division between white Jews and brown Jews. White Jews were the landowners. They owned the means of production. They owned culture. They owned the government. They owned academia. Just one small detail, just a small anecdote to deliver this shift. There used to be Jewish Arab judges in mandatory Palestine who worked in the British legal system, some in the high court of the country, senior judges with decades of experience. Naturally, they should become they should be the new judges in the new state that was being established. This is what you would expect. But they made it so that every Mizrahi Jew, every Mizrahi judge, every Jewish Arab judge that served in mandatory Palestine under the British system was kicked out of the system, and they could not be appointed. And they created a legal system and a judiciary which is purely Ashkenazi. And there are endless stories, and to this day, and I know so many people. I mean, personally, this is not just academic. This is personally for me, from my family, from friends, from activists. to be a Mizrahi Jew, an Arab Jew in academia, for instance, you could never get tenure. You could never get tenure. Your only chance to be accepted by the system is to become the equivalent of a homeboy. So sing the praises of Ashkenazi Zionism, how wonderful and unique the kibbutzim are, and the IDF, and so on and so on and so on. If you had the slightest dream of researching your own history, the history of your own people, you're out. You're out.
How do they do that? How do they do that?
They had all the power. They had all the, and we have to understand that these are people, many of them spoke Yiddish. Some of them knew each other from Poland and Ukraine and Belarus and other places. They had this sense of closeness, and Arab Jews were aliens. And just to give another detail, when I went to school in Israel in the 80s, in the late 80s, I never learned, I mean, the only bit of Jewish history that you learn is European history, but with pogroms and the Holocaust. This is the focus. This is unbelievable. I never knew I had a history. I never knew I had a history. And I'm curious, I read a lot. I lived in a house where my mother was an avid reader of books. We were intellectually curious family, but I had no idea I had a history. And when society tells you that you have no history, that it means that you have no legitimacy. Because if you had a history that's worth telling, we would tell it. The fact that we deny our history, it means that we need to be ashamed of it. And there are so many layers to those people who spoke Arabic. This was
Where's your family? Where's your family from?
My mother was born in Morocco, and my father is a Palestinian Jew. Basically, I'm a Palestinian Jew. Basically.
Yeah.
And all those people spoke Arabic, but in this new hell of a promised Jewish land, they were made to be ashamed of their Arabic. They forgot their Arabic. So their children and grandchildren don't speak a word of Arabic. They learn to be ashamed of their origins, of their story. And I think just to wrap this part of this conversation, I think one of the tragedies of Zionism, first this erasure of all those communities, because this is dead. It's not coming back. It's dead. I mean, the traditions, the oral traditions, the language, all of it cannot go back. This is dead. But the anger and frustration that Arab Jews feel and have felt historically in Zionism, which had a class element to it, which had a race element to it, which a racial element to it, because of the way they were treated. All of this is being channeled into hating Arabs and Palestinians. This is like the classic capitalist, colonialist mode of operation. This is what you do. You make people poor and you make them angry and you make them hate the other, the racial other, or the foreign other, and so on and so on. But this, I mean, the racist doctrine and the racist history of Zionism and the atrocities every generation of Israelis commits, and the really sick and distorted conversation that exists in Israel, together with all these negative emotions which don't have an outlet and cannot be expressed, and many Arab Jews from my mother's generation, the people who are now in the late 70s or 80s, they would never admit, or their parents, because my mother came here as a child with came to Israel as a child with their parents, they could never admit that they were deceived and heartbroken. Because what are they supposed to do now? Some of them had their passports. Some Moroccan Jews had French passports, and they were confiscated. They made sure they can't even leave. Some did leave. I mean, famously, there are letters of some Moroccan Jews. This is a crazy story, but just to give context to this side. Some Moroccan Jews came all the way from Morocco to volunteer in the 1948 war. Because again, they believed it, they wanted to be part of this, whatever. And there are letters that some of them wrote and sent back home to Morocco, and they told their people, don't come to this country. This is a disgusting, racist country. You will not believe how we are treated and what they're doing here. And those letters never reached their destination. Military censorship stopped them. And now they're presenting them as part of some exhibition. Haaretz wrote about this a few years ago. So, but just I want to set the record straight. This Mizrahi activist part of me and part of my consciousness and part of what I'm doing. This is not to justify or exonerate Zionism in any way, shape, or form. Zionism is an abhorrent political phenomenon. To me, it's one of the great historic evils that we know of. There's slavery, there's human sacrifice, it's this league of historic evils. I just want people to know a little bit more about the story, because many tragedies are folded into this. This is not just one, one uniform mess. And for me personally, I mean, my journey out of Zionism began thanks to my Mizrahi consciousness. And I told this story before. I don't want to get into too many details. But when I realized that this whole in Israel, they have this slide that we are all Jews and we are all the same. And of course, they deny that anything wrong ever happened in terms of how black and brown Jews were treated. But when I realized, when I got to know a bunch of Mizrahi activists, and when I came to realize that this belief that I had was a lie, and that there's no such thing as an Israeli. An Israeli means an Ashkenazi, and some Mizrahi people who do what the Ashkenazi say and play nice and follow the rules. But there's no such thing as Israeli. And of course, Palestinians are never Israeli. When you say Israeli, you mean Jews, right? But what about Palestinian citizens of Israel? No one talks about them. For me, understanding that this was a lie, and that things that I had historically felt, being seen as suspect, being seen as lesser, less intelligent, less trustworthy, and all those things that I have felt and known throughout my life, and I was always considered like bright, and I was my teachers were like admired my achievement and so on, but still something wasn't right. And only when I was ready to see and acknowledge this, the first thought I had after this was, if I feel like this, and I know that this story is bullshit, what do Palestinians feel? So this was like the immediate next step for me. And I think that this is the beauty, the potential beauty of understanding that society tells many lies. And the lie of everyone we have equality and everyone is the same. Once you understand that you are not treated like you're the same, you can immediately understand the point of views of other people who are also not treated. And it should open your heart and your consciousness to see that this crazy phase in human evolution, when we give so much importance to this totally irrelevant idiocy, we need to like move on from this. But we have to recognize it. We have to recognize how strong and powerful this is, and how toxic and destructive white supremacy and prevalent this is. We have to see and recognize it. We cannot just say, oh no, many liberals have this fantasy that
they have lots of fantasies.
Something was wrong back in the day, but now we have black people in the Democratic Party and all is fine. No, all is not fine.
No, definitely not. And we really appreciate you sharing your story and your history, and that's a huge part of this. A lot of people don't want to see it, or at least are not able to comprehend how deep this goes. But I think so much of what we've seen over the last 3 years is a complete exposure of just how strong the Zionist cause actually is financially. We've seen what they've done to our political and economic system. Do you believe, from where you stand today, and obviously we want to touch on the Substack, do you believe that Zionism, or at least the state of Israel, is on its way out? Do you believe that it is inevitable that it is going to collapse?
Yes, 100%. I have zero doubt. And I think that it is closer than people believe. I think that this is going to be the final result of this war that they started stupidly with Iran. The dominoes started falling, and the result is going to be once all those fake installed Arab regimes, those collaborative regimes, and I call them worse names, but I don't want to use this language now. Once they
you can let it fly here, man. It's all good here.
Okay. Once they are removed, once they become unstable, this whole envelope that protects Israel from the anger and the justified hatred, that Arabs have for Israel, when this is gone, Israel is gone. Israel is gone. And I want to say something about what you said about the power of Zionism, and this is truly immense and overwhelming. I mean, no one could imagine something like this. No one could. I couldn't imagine. I've been a radical thinker for a decade. This is like a year and a half ago, I said we moved on from the realm of politics to the realm of psychiatry. This is not politics anymore. This is not some kind of give and take, some kind of I want to preserve this is important to me, you give me something. This is really psychiatry, but we didn't know Zionism had this much power in the West. But what we also didn't know is that, and this is also a shocking part, that there are so many people in Western elites and in Arab elites who fully identify with Israel and embrace Israel and love Israel and would support Israel at any cost. Would support, this we are seeing, I grew up in Israel. I'm not sure I can talk of myself as a Westerner, but if you grew up in the West, this should make you question your entire life, basically. Because
I think a lot of Americans are going through that right now. They've been going through it for a while.
This is very healthy. How did things come to this? How did things come to a place where ordinary people are telling their governments, have you seen the children being murdered? And they are shocked. We are shell-shocked. We are broken. And we are telling figures in authority, have you seen this? Are you seeing this? And they're telling us, now the weather forecast. Here's a recipe Oh, here's a vacation go to Italy, have a vacation. We want to talk about this and this. And that. So this utter disconnect. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? It's like we are being occupied by a race of aliens, because this doesn't even feel human.
We covered a story. We covered a story a little bit earlier about this data center that they're trying to build close to where I grew up, and the whole Oedipus of the entire story basically comes down to, I'm rich, I'm powerful, I don't give a fuck who this hurts. I'm going to get what I want. And so we also discussed the fact that it is almost overwhelming in Argentina that they're not on board with basically this becoming the next Israel, with Milei basically rolling out the red carpet for all of the Zionists to basically come there once things become too hot in Palestine, where they're basically just going to relocate. And so much of this, as I'm sure you could speak to, is a class war. As much as there is the racial element to it, so much of this is based on money and power. And so when people are looking around, they're saying, how could you look at these children being massacred and not say anything? Because it pays me very well to pretend like I don't see it.
Yeah. I agree with this. But what I specifically mean is, when something like this happens, when children are being massacred on camera, and the reaction that you get from your entire civilization, this is everyone and everything everywhere all the time, it's not happening and it's no big deal and get over it and calm down. This is not only them being evil, this is the whole world I believed existed doesn't exist. What I thought society is not true.
Yeah.
What I thought the US is not true. It's just an illusion. Or Germany or Italy or many other countries. This is not true. I mean, I have followers and people I talk to from basically all over. And Australia it's like a complete asylum. It is a complete. You hear stories from Australia. People being arrested for wearing a shirt saying "Free Palestine," actually getting arrested. I mean, amazing stuff. People getting raided, getting censored for voicing the slightest criticism of Israel. I mean, this goes really beyond just Zionism and how evil this is. This tells us that there's deep rot. There's deep rot in Western societies, which is bigger than Israel, which is bigger than what Israel is doing. This is a civilization based on a lie, based on a deception. Everything they told us was a lie. And I think that the more radical we are in understanding this and insisting that this is the reality, the better chances we have of creating something new once this house of cards collapses. Because this is unsustainable. I mean, you cannot operate in such clear violation of basic humanity forever. The things don't work like this. It can't. I mean, the fact that they attempt this tell us how stupid they are and how disconnected they have become themselves, where they don't even feel obliged to act like normal tyrants and hide the bad stuff they're doing. And they don't even feel the need to do this anymore. They just brag, they say and do whatever. So this, I think that this, if you want to talk about this, we can talk about this a little more, about the meaning of this war in Iran and what Yahya Sinwar started. This is not
Wait, let me
only
just say for people, let me just clarify for people, they might not know who Yahya Sinwar, who is the leader of Hamas, how long has it been since they killed him? It's been a couple years, right?
2 years or so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just in case people don't know that who you're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that this war is going to be one of the major wars in history, basically. Its implications for like geopolitics, for the rest of humanity, they're going to be immense. They are going to be immense. Iran's ability to stop the plans of Israel and the U.S. and to make a mockery of their all this bluster about what they are and what they stand for and their capabilities and technologies and yada yada yada, and Iran just cancels all this and stays strong and begins this process of radically changing West Asia and ending Western hegemony in West Asia. This is huge. I said it before, and I actually believe it, that the revolution of 1979 is going to be more important historically than the revolution of 1917. Because the revolution of 1917, I'm talking about the communist revolution in Russia, had major implications, but they were limited in time and limited in space, in geography. The Soviet Union collapsed, and now it's like it never existed, basically. I mean, the biggest thing that remains is China, but China took a different path, and it is a different story. The revolution of 1979, if they succeed, and I believe that they will succeed in changing West Asia and bringing American imperialism and the image of the US as this big, mighty, invincible power, bringing this to this end, this is going to have way. I'm not afraid to use big words and big emotions for this, because this is a big moment in history. This moment right now, this is one of those. I mean, I was around when the Berlin Wall fell. I think you're a little young for this. Maybe
you and I are probably the same age.
Okay.
I was born in 71.
Okay. So we are around the same age.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Yeah. And this was a big, like, it felt big. It was like history was happening in front of our eyes. And this is a similar moment, and potentially even bigger, because Western imperialism and this whole international endeavor of white supremacy spreading and taking more land and destroying more communities and more parts of the world and more of the earth geography and resources, like a fucking virus.
Yeah.
Bringing something like this to an end, this is like once in a millennia celebration. This is really huge, and I'm really excited to witness something like this. And I think that this is a word of encouragement for people who are watching this, because I think it is really so easy, and this is what the system wants. The system wants us depressed. It wants us arrested and down and without energy and gray and dull and hopeless. And we should resist. This is part of our duty as resistance fighters, because we are resistance fighters. We don't have Kalashnikovs, but we have our voice, we have our body, we have our life, and what we do with it. And it's really important that we retain a certain level of enthusiasm, because we are watching really great things This is not just the horrors that are still going on in Palestine, in Gaza, and the West Bank, and other places. I mean, Venezuela and Cuba and all this. I mean, it's like they have an appetite for other people's misery that is unquenchable. They have to make someone suffer. This is, I don't know. This is not even for a purpose. It's like the sadism is the purpose.
Yeah. You're
What do
talking
they want?
about people that were killing and eating and raping children, right? Like that's the kind of people that we're talking about here. And I think it's very important that you made the connection to white supremacy, and I make it all the time. And it's Zionism is white supremacy. It is completely white supremacy. It's always been white supremacy, and that's just one of its sort of tentacles, just one of the one of its avenues.
I completely agree, and I wanna talk and write about this a little more because this like an awakening happening now in the States with people like waking up to the reality of this insanity that's going on, this domination, this occupation of the US. And I think that especially on the right wing, I mean, liberals present no hope to anyone as well, but especially on the right wing, I think that the mistake that they are making, they want to blame it all on Jews and Zionism and the Jews and the control the Jews have. And now Jews have too much power in the US. We have to say it. And this is unhealthy, and this has been destructive, and we can see the results. But you cannot artificially sever the ties, the ideological, the emotional, the psychological, the historic ties between Zionism and white supremacy. And the fact that, as I see it, a big reason why Zionism has been so successful in the West, it's because of the West's white supremacy and how addicted it is to white supremacy. And Zionism, when like Germany cannot go and occupy and murder black people now in Namibia, it's not nice. They're not going to do this. And the same like Belgium, it can't return to the Congo and kill 5 million black people. They won't do this now because of PR reasons, not because they are so different. But Israel gives them the outlet for this psychopathy. Israel tells them, you can vicariously continue doing what you love to do, which is kill brown and black people and destroy communities, and you really love doing this. We'll give you we will be this. I mean, a few years, when was it that it was revealed that during the civil war in former Yugoslavia, some tourists from Italy and other places, but that went there and sniped people for pay. They paid like a big chunks of money to kill people with a sniper rifle from whatever distance. And in a way, Zionism fulfills this this element or this mission for former colonial powers. Mm-hmm. They can't. France won't go into Algeria, and Belgium won't go into Congo, and the Netherlands won't go into Indonesia. But through Israel, they can keep this thing alive. They can stay connected to this poisoned root that they share. And when people insist to not face to not face white supremacy and to not talk about this, they cannot fight Zionism effectively, because this is one big mechanism that Zionism uses to appeal to Western audiences and Western elites. It sells them this white supremacist dream and its fulfillment in a sanitized version. You don't have to shoot a child. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So I agree.
I feel like
completely.
they've always used us as Jews, right? So like I grew up Ashkenazi Jewish, South Florida, Zionist, the whole thing, right? And I feel so much rage because just like people were forced to no longer speak Arabic, my relatives would have been forced to no longer speak Yiddish. And they did actually have that culture before. And a lot of them were used and lied to and manipulated and were sold this false narrative. So I have like a lot of rage about that, you know. So it's not just that they actually stripped the white culture, people's white culture that they had. So like my family was Polish, Austrian, Russian, whatever. But when those people came there, they were told, you can't speak that anymore. You can't have that anymore. And so they lost their histories too.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, you know, so many Jews were used for the Zionist project.
Yeah, I agree. And Zionism is an extremely cynical movement. It has no authentic core. It doesn't have like an actual belief.
No.
It's very cynical, and it will say and do and use whatever and whoever to achieve more power and more financial benefits. And it also contained this element. Again, this is like a pathology, and on top of a pathology, beside a psychopathy, this is really. They had this urge, this impulse, this drive to counter the experience of what they saw, the experience of the exile for Jews, the experience of the diaspora. They wanted to create a new type of Jew, muscular, heroic, wielding a weapon, and strong, and not like those pathetic Jews who lived in ghettos and would just pray and would run away if they were afraid. No, we want to create something new, something. And so really the religious Jews who came to this new land, what they did to Yemen is it's like a whole series, just what they did to Yemeni Jews. But also religious Ashkenazi Jews and people were they had this mentality that we have to create something new that's not like the diaspora. And they didn't really want Jewish religion. They could not completely outroot it. They really wanted to, but it was impossible. You cannot create an independent collective of Jews in its historic whatever without the Jewish religion being present. And we can see this war is going on to this very day, because now the big fight in Israel is between ultra-Orthodox Jews who don't want to join the IDF and the Zionist power, the Zionist establishments, who insist that they should, because they need more and more soldiers for their endless wars.
Alon, I want to conclude on this note, which I think is very important. Jen and I have been saying for a while that Iran, and more specifically the Strait of Hormuz, is America's checkmate when it comes to Israel. Iran is basically laying, or has been laying, the groundwork to effectively have a choke point in more ways than one against the U.S. economy, which is simply this: either you give up on Israel and their genocide because they will not stop, or you will go down with them. We will force your country into an economic depression. They're pretty much already doing it as we speak. And I do believe that the only reason, maybe plausibly anyway, the only reason why at least 60,000 ground troops are now in West Asia is because the people at the very top that control the U.S. economy have basically said American soldiers have to die for us to open up the strait because we are not giving up Israel. That's my opinion. That's what I believe is happening here. Do you believe it's going to require a certain amount of bloodshed before the American people finally revolt?
Yes. My answer is yes, but I think that you are missing one piece in this puzzle, in this chain, because
sure,
what Iran is telling the US is not give up Israel. It is give up your fantasies of being a hegemonic world power with dominance in West Asia. This is what they have to give up first. This I talk about this more in the video, in the link that you just shared before, this article from Substack, and I explain why Iran is not attacking Israel. So Iran has this. Iran, I mean, is in such a unique position. I mean, politically, geopolitically, historically. I mean, in this dreary landscape, in this moral wasteland that we are forced to inhabit, where children are being murdered, and the Epstein files are being, what the fuck? I mean, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? The Epstein files are being hidden, and everybody knows what's on them, right? We don't need to see the names and the real. We know what's in there.
Yep.
And in this landscape, Iran is the sole power operating basically alone against this entire coalition of pedophiles and thieves and murderers and child killers and abusers and sadists who have endless amounts of money and almost endless amounts of weaponry. And Iran is facing all this alone, and Iran needs to plan for an assured victory. They are not taking chances. And it has been my understanding and my theory all along, and I'm going to lay it down like in short. Iran is fighting three wars. Okay? War number one is the US. War number two is the Arab regional powers, the traitors and collaborators. And war number three is Israel. And Iran is having this series of wars, one after the other. They don't want to do all together. They don't want to do anything too drastic, because they don't want to first cause potentially a nuclear escalation. So they need to cook Israel and the US a little bit slowly to let them get used to the new degraded state. They have to push the US out. This is the first and biggest mission. This is what they are mainly focused on. And I think that they mostly achieved that already. I think that, yes, the US will try again, give it its best shot, and it's going to fail. And then it's going to be much easier for Iran to continue to wars number 2 and 3, to seriously bring down Saudi Arabia and Jordan and the UAE and Qatar and all those fake countries. And we have to remember, there are like 400 million people who live in Arab West Asia. 90% of them hate Israel and what it's doing. Like they get up in the morning and they curse at Israel, and they go to sleep and they curse at Israel, and they hate the humiliation of being occupied and having all those puppet rulers that they have, from Egypt to Saudi Arabia and everything in between, and Morocco, so many countries. There's a human tsunami that waits for the right moment. And when they feel that this architecture of evil and regional domination is not stable, it's beginning to shake, this is going to be really something for the history books and the video collections of historians in generations to come. There's a volcano of anger and frustration and humiliation accumulating and building, and Iran knows this. And all those corrupt rulers. I mean, this is why Hussein from Jordan went to London last week, and we haven't heard anything from him since. I'm not sure he's coming back. I mean, and this is again the Western and Israeli vanity and really hubris. They have this delusion where there's no limit to their power, and they can do whatever they want. And they are now finding out that this is not the case. This is not the case. And I think that we're in luck that this coalition of pedophiles and psychopaths are led by two figures like Netanyahu and Donald Trump, who are too sick to learn anything and change their behavior and change their tune. These people don't learn and don't reach new conclusions. They're going to double down and double down and double down, and Iran knows this. Iran operates with this in mind. So again, in this great big historic moment, it looks like there can be only one result. And this is the defeat of the West. And this is wonderful news for mankind, for humankind, sorry.
I could not agree more. I am so here for it. I said it earlier. Iran is fighting for like the soul of the planet. I don't understand how people don't see this. That's anybody, all y'all that went watch Star Wars and you rooted for the rebels. Why don't you get that now?
Yeah,
that's what that's the thing. So Iran is the largest state sponsor of freedom fighters.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
I think that it is because they watched the Star Wars and because they became so infantile and think that life is in cinema and cinema is life. I mean, really, we can talk about this. I can talk about this endlessly, but the infantilization of Western people and Western audiences. I mean, the central place. This is going to look ridiculous in retrospect. The fact
it already does.
It already looks ridiculous, but we educate, like our media generally is at a 4th grade level. At media, people are taught to put out. No, it's 4. It used to be 5th, and now we're down to 4th. Oh, and that's what we're dealing with here. And people in other countries
that's deliberate
that speak multiple languages, we're fools that just have big weapons. Mm-hmm. I don't like it's embarrassing. We have a question for you, Alon, before you go, but Arlene wants to know if it's safe for you to return to Israel. Not that you'd want to, but
I went back to Israel once or twice for family reasons because I had to. I really don't want to. I need to keep a low profile.
Yeah.
Which is what I do, and if I can manage it, I will never set foot there again, unless it's Palestine again.
Liberated. If it's liberated.
Yeah. But I really want nothing whatever to do with Israel. And to be honest, I don't want much to do with the Jewish world either. I'm so like burnt out, so disillusioned, so fed up. No. I'm looking outside. I'm looking elsewhere. This is really this changed me in many ways.
Same.
We can't thank you enough for coming on. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Mr. Mizrahi's Substack. Obviously, this conversation has been extremely insightful, and I said it at the top, I'll say it at the end. The impact of your words, like Jen's, when it's people that actually come from this world and can really shed the light on the depravity and inhumanity that Zionism represents, because you've lived it, is something that you can't put a price on. It means a lot. We appreciate you being here, and we definitely hope to speak with you again down the road.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. And I want to thank you guys. And I want to thank everyone watching this. And people should know that everyone counts and everything counts. We are definitely not the majority now. We don't have the big platforms. We don't have the big budgets. But every action and everything counts. So I'm thankful to everyone who's saying or doing or participating, protesting, really from the bottom of my heart. You're doing God's actual work. So be proud and go on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alon.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, my friend. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye. Alaikum salam. Bye-bye.
Now, that is one way to conclude a show.
So apparently I was correct. We had time zone.
Yes, I did. That's what I thought too. So I thought I read that like early on and I wasn't sure. And I saw 9 p.m. and I think, wait a minute, that's an hour back. So yeah.
So thank you guys for sticking with us.
Sonia, thank you for the $1.99, and Jim Talib, thank you for the $5. Obviously, we have a couple of stories that we cannot get to this evening, but it was definitely for a good reason. So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. We will see you Thursday, and
Free Palestine.
Good night, guys.